Hi, my name is Duriadan Hawk, also known as Daya. I'm here with my co-host, Merryana Salem, also known as Mary. We're two writers who love movies, TV, and books, especially when they're gay, and welcome to Gay V Club, where we look at LGBT media that we like, that we don't like, and how we relate to them as gay people of colour.
Hi!
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like Gay V Club, please rec us to your friends, family, crush. Leave a nice review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also keep up with us on our personal socials, but also on Twitter and Instagram at gayv_club. I also literally just started a Threads account. Don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but it exists.
Shout out to me. I just decided to go back onto social media after not really being
Mary's
on it
there now, so you can at them with your queries.
I unprivated my account because the Doctor Who fandom stopped stalking me, I think, which is nice of them to do.
Hooray.
Anyway,
hooray. And we also have a separate Tumblr side blog, gayvclubpodcast.tumblr.com. We've also got some bonus episodes on our Patreon, so if you're interested in listening to those, you can go support us at patreon.com/gayvclub.
The episode we are recording today actually started its life as a bonus episode on Patreon. So if you would like to listen to the original
raw, unhinged thoughts.
Yeah.
Because this is the very, very serious... This is the super, super serious version of it, of that episode.
This
you're
is
welcome
the refined
to plus,
version of that episode.
Yeah, not unhinged at all. That's
which will not be unhinged.
No, we won't.
We're very normal.
We promise. We're so normal.
We're promise.
Yeah, what are we talking about, Mary?
Today we are talking about the queer subtext of one of our favourite TV shows, and in my opinion, one of the best TV shows ever made, which is Succession, created by Jesse Armstrong, and it's a HBO show, nominated for a bunch of Emmys.
Yeah. Does it deserve all the nominations that it got? Not really, but that's fine. It deserves most of them.
Yeah.
So just a synopsis for people who don't know, Succession is a dramatic satire about a rich family named the Roys, who run a global news media empire. And the central question at the heart of the show is which of the adult children of the family patriarch will inherit that business? You know, who will succeed and become the successor?
Who will become the titular successor in Succession?
Who will win the succession? So, like, these characters, just to run through them. So you've got Logan, who's like the family patriarch. He's like 80 years old. Those three children, their names are Kendall, Roman, and Shiv. And
Connor.
And Connor.
People say I'm Logan coded. You just straight up
Barbie,
forgot.
He's just Connor. So Connor is Logan's first son from Logan's first marriage, played by Alan Ruck. Then from Logan's second marriage, you have the main three children, the oldest of which is Kendall, played by Jeremy Strong, Roman, played by Kieran Culkin, and then the youngest is the daughter, Shiv, short for Siobhan, played by Sarah Snook, who we love.
We love you.
I mean, we love nearly all the names mentioned there, so...
You're so mean.
Did I say Brian Cox before? That's why I said it. Oh, sorry. Oh. Yeah.
That's why I assumed. I was like, why are you hating on Kieran? What did he do?
We also love the others, but yeah, you know. Sarah, we
love you. Australian icon.
And the characters are based on a lot of different real life billionaires, but primarily on the Murdoch family and their influence mostly in America where the show is set. So it started in 2018 and ended very recently in May 2023. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So is this...
The show is not necessarily gay. Like, I wouldn't call this a gay show.
Mm-hmm.
In the way I'd call, something like, what's a gay show? I'm drawing a mental Good Omens. In
the way that we would call
sort of a gay show, right? It's not about like being gay in that sense or like focusing on gay culture or anything like that. But there is a very deliberate queer subtext throughout the entire show, which is genuinely important to the plot and tells us a lot about the characters and their politics. which is why we've decided to talk about it.
Yeah. Quite a lot of it is deliberate. There's also some that's maybe not deliberate, but, we observe things.
We observe.
And we're going to talk about those. So yeah, as we said before, this episode is like a retake of a bonus episode we did in April, in the middle of season 4, which we'd intended as a 45-minute impromptu, but
3 hours later.
Yeah, but 3 hours later, we realized that, maybe it is that deep, because it is that deep.
Yes.
It really is that deep, I think. And I think viewing this show through a queer lens, like, it adds another dimension to the story and to understanding the story and just how great it is. Another thing, our bestie, I don't know, maybe
our
Jesse
bestie
Armstrong,
95% of the time.
our bestie, I'm gonna say 80% of the time. Okay. Jesse Armstrong, like, historically, he's been, like, very unwilling to explain or disclose a lot of character motivations. So this has allowed the audience to, and even, like, the actors to interpret these things as they see them, which I think is nice, because he understands that, once you put a story out into the world, it's no longer just yours. So,
and I think this is an interesting approach as well, because the actors have talked about how he doesn't even necessarily disclose it to them. Jeremy Strong has talked about how, like, he doesn't usually ask Jesse about things, but there have been occasions where he has, and Jesse has come back with a very specific detail, but not even really elaborating, like, generally.
It's just good storytelling.
Yes.
It just means a lot of different things.
When people say, like, show, don't tell, like, this is what the best version of that looks like.
Yeah, there's just a lot to read into on this show, which just makes it very fun and very rich.
Succession operating like that, which is honestly my dream way for a show to operate, which is primarily in, like, just rich subtext. It's really ruined watching a lot of other shows for me, because I'm like, why did you tell me that? Like, I get really mad when shows tell me things. I'm like, no, don't tell me this, because, like, I've just seen what a show can be like when it doesn't feel the need to over-explain things, and now it's just ruined everything. Like, I couldn't stand watching The Last of Us, because that show spends so much time explaining character motivations, and I was like, why? I don't need you to tell me this. So yeah, I think it's just set a new standard. Succession has really set a new standard in that way, at least for me personally.
I don't know. I also think, like, just as gay people, we're quite used to reading into things and looking for subtext in everything. So Succession is, like, a great show that's, like, offered, just a treasure trove of, like, stuff that you can think about and dive into, that I think is,
it's delicious.
That I think is, like, what makes
feast.
It really fun, like, to watch Succession as a gay person. So, here on Gay V Club, we look at quote-unquote LGBT media and how we relate to it as gay people of color. So that's what we're going to do today with Succession. Of course, just before we start, though, big content warnings for discussions of homophobia, abuse of every kind, and drug use as well. Please be safe and listen at your discretion. Okay.
So before we get, deep in the dirt with everything, we feel the need to... No, we don't feel the need to. We just want to say that Mary, am a Team Roman. I hate saying teams. It makes me think of Twilight.
Team Roman. Okay, you're a Roman.
I don't know how to. I can't say girly, so I don't know. Okay, I'll just say team. I just want to acknowledge.
You're a Romaneth, and
that's no. I'll just say, like, I'm
Romanovian.
I am a
Romanov.
I'm
Romalian.
No. I am Team Roman. Not in the Twilight sense. In the sense that's my guy. That's my losing dog. Dea is Team Kendall, and that's where we sort of come from in our interpretations. It's not that we love them, but we do. But we also would happily.
I want them all to kill themselves, but Kendall's my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always say that I love Roman, but I would also be sat front row for the public waterboarding. It's a very complicated thing, but that's what it is. It does seem a bit silly that we do have to say this, but just so people don't get the wrong idea, we are fully aware that these characters are billionaire scum, and we have no genuine sympathy for them and their kind.
Their ilk.
Yeah, their ilk. And we understand, like, as people who have watched the show all the way through, there is just a funny thing you kind of have to do with your brain to stomach this show. There is sort of a thing that has to happen.
There's something you got to switch on
or switch off, depending on how you look at it,
Mm.
where you just have to sort of accept that you're watching these despicable people. And for a lot of people, I do know people that I've tried to get to watch Succession and they can't do that. They're just like, no, it's too uncomfortable for them to do. However, we're professionals.
Yeah.
So we're fine. We're
Mm-hmm.
fine with doing that.
I mean, we've been watching it for a long time, so it's kind of just normal to us. But yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, when people who are new to the show, who do enjoy it, like, they will preface every single thing that they say with, listen, I know that these characters are, like, all awful human beings and don't deserve anything good, but... And it's very cute. But yeah, we're not going to bother doing that so much this episode because, come on. This is an interesting thing because these characters are, like, so unrelatable and untouchable and just completely removed from, like, any kind of normal life that we would know. And so, like, what Jesse Armstrong does in order to make a show that can center around these people is he will first, on a micro level, he will, like, zoom in on the more human resembling parts of them.
Because maybe you probably can't relate to business deals and things like that, but I bet you can relate to having shitty siblings or having a shitty dad or and that's the kind of it's the beauty of the show, and it's also the trap of the show.
Yeah, it's a deliberate trap because, you know, he also loves in moments to just zoom out afterwards, and, like, that really shows you the kind of power that these people hold, even, like, in all their pettiness, is just it's something that they shouldn't have.
No.
And they don't really have, you can't really say that, like, what you do see, like, on a smaller level is humanity, because, like, with compared to what they do, like, on a larger scale to the world, it's not human.
Just on a side, like, I think the season 3 finale, the reason why that finale is just incredible is because when Logan betrays them, he's basically just making sure they can't climb this ladder. He's taking them out of the race to be in charge, like, have the level of horrible influence that he has. And actually, on a grand scale, that's kind of a good thing in a way. But, like, because we experience this, like, through these characters, like, as a betrayal, it feels devastating, even though when you actually think of it on a grand scale, it's like, oh, this is actually, like, kind of funny. And
that bit when he's like make your own money, pal, and, you know, like, I'm, like, crying at this point, but I just have to laugh at it.
You're literally like, I don't know, it's one of the few scenes where I'm like, Logan is actually so real for doing this.
He knows that they're not serious people.
He knows that they're not serious people. And he actually, like, wasn't even gonna, like, it's not like he was gonna completely, like, shut them out. They were still gonna be rich. They were still gonna have seats or whatever. But, like, but, you know, because we experience it through the kids, we're like, oh, this betrayal, it's just wow. And then, you know, because of the mum as well, you're just, like, absolutely devastated. You're like, wow, they have nobody. But then, you know, then you sort of, again, you zoom out, especially in season 4, that zoom out comes into, like, full effect, and you're like, oh, wow.
Oh, America decides.
Yeah, you're like, wow,
the ultimate vibe check episode.
This is what they fought
just
for.
in case.
This is what they were, like, upset that they lost in season 3. This is why we were screaming, crying, throwing up with them, because they didn't get to do this. They thought they wouldn't get to do this. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. That's why I think the season 3 finale, like, I want to, like, take it apart like a clock. Because it's just such good writing in that way that you're like, because I can't not watch it and not feel sad for them. Like, even though I know everything that I know, I still, like, you know, when they walk in there and, you know, and my boy, he's got his big puppy eyes. He's like, why are you doing this? I'm like, oh my God, why is he doing this? I'm just like,
yeah. All right.
It's crazy. Anyway, the zoom in, zoom out.
On that zoom in, zoom out. We're going to talk about it a bit over the course of this episode. It's, like, one of the things that's so great about this show, and, like, what makes it watchable again, like, with such a removed set of characters. I think as well, just, like, going through this episode, Mary and I have siblings. And this informs the way that we view Succession. I really don't understand, like, what only childs think when they watch this show.
No.
I feel like it's just not for you.
Actually,
I don't think you can really have opinions.
We're gatekeeping it from you. My brother's partner, she's an only child, and she watched some Succession with me, and it was very interesting, like, hearing her opinions on it. She was much more removed from it, which was interesting. Like, she would just sort of be like, wow, they're horrible. And then just that would be it. That would be her assessment. Meanwhile, I'm there like hemorrhaging on the floor. So
true.
I think
So true.
I think it's just very observational for them. They're just like, wow.
Yeah, maybe. Also, I don't actually want to discuss this now, but Mary, our theory of sibling order.
The sibling order. Yes,
sibling order to Roy sibling. Okay, so I am a Kendall fan. I'm also, like Kendall, I am the eldest child of my parents' marriage, but I do have an older sibling from my mother's previous marriage.
Yes.
And Mary...
Yes, I am also the eldest child of my parents' marriage, and I have 2 older siblings from my mum's previous marriage. I do understand the oldest quote-unquote daughter struggles. I do relate to them because even though obviously the age gap with my sisters meant they moved out like when I was very young, so I did grow up a lot with just me and my brother. So I'm a pretty typical middle child in that way, and I am a third though. I am a third sibling in the pecking order, and well, yes, I am Team Roman, so it works out. And just to say that anecdotally, I have more evidence of this. Anecdotally, my mum is the eldest. My mum has 1 sibling, her younger brother. She's the oldest. And people who follow me on Tumblr may know, my mum is a through and through Kendall girly. She absolutely loves Kendall, like, so much. She is still angry at the finale because she's like, I just wanted him to be happy and they didn't give that to him. She is beside herself about that. And then my other family member who I have that I talk to a lot is my auntie, and she is also the eldest child. She's the eldest daughter specifically, and she's a Kendall girly as well. And then my cousin, who's my only literally the only person in of all the people I talk to about Succession, my younger cousin, who is a younger sibling, she's one of 2, she's a Roman girly. So, and she's my only person everybody else in my circle fucking hates this guy, and I'm just here like, I love him.
I want to spray this man with Mortine.
Yeah, I'm just like constantly like, I love him, and everyone's like, fuck you. And I'm just like, okay.
Well, not fuck you, Mary. Just
yeah, no, not fuck me, but
fuck
like,
you.
Yeah. But it's just funny. It's just funny. I'm just like, and this led to a very interesting thing when I experienced the finale, because I was like, oh, I'm happy. And then, but everyone else around me who's a Kendall person was like, oh my gosh, like screaming, crying, throwing up. Anyway, anecdotally, I have a lot of evidence. We have some evidence, and your little Nita. He
likes Roman. My other friends who are younger siblings either like Roman or Shiv. I feel like there's a gender thing with that as well, if you want it. But yeah, like with message us, leave comments. I'd like to know if you wanna consider Kendall the eldest boy. Yeah. Like Kendall does. Feel free. And gender doesn't matter actually. No. Like in this case. Just let me know. Let us know.
Let us know what your sibling order is and if it corresponds to your favorite Roy sibling.
Yeah, don't worry about like whether your parents have been married twice or whatever. Just quickly in relation to that. So, I'm a Kendall. I'm a Kendall. I like Kendall. Mary likes Roman. In terms of Shiv, listen, like we know.
We know.
Both of us were raised as daughters. Yeah?
Yes.
Is that okay to say, Mary?
Yeah, I think so.
You're happy?
I'm fine.
So we know. I feel like one of the reasons that Shiv isn't my favorite character is that it just depresses me so much because I see so much. I know the patterns.
The only way that I survive thinking about her ending, and this is the only way I survive thinking about Shiv's ending, is that I know Elizabeth Murdoch watches the show, and for her to see that, I hope she suffered psychologically. That's the only. This is the only way I survive it. Because
wow.
But yes, we know. That's the thing to take away. We know.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now we're gonna be more serious and talk about Tom Gregg now.
Serious and Tom Gregg in the same sentence. Okay.
As we said, there's very deliberate queer subtext in the show, just for those who don't know. So gay subtext is when there are like the visual and written cues that indirectly imply queerness, using coding, etc. It did begin in art as just something that queer artists would do to kind of signify their existence without, in the best way that they could.
Yes.
So another thing that is very key to Succession is homosociality and homosocial misogyny.
Homosociality doesn't really exist without misogyny, but I use misogyny to describe when it's like the actual behavior of it. Homosociality is like the intimacy between men and the rituals and behavior between men where they uphold patriarchy and like subjugate and exclude women by engaging in these behaviors where they prioritize one another to maintain patriarchy. So it's often like very intimate behaviors and
Secret Boys Club.
Yeah. It's YTB behavior. And when we say like homosocial misogyny, we're talking about the very deliberate thing of engaging in this camaraderie with men to exclude women, which happens a lot in Succession. So like I don't think you can be doing homosociality without being misogynistic, but there are times where it's very deliberately misogynistic in the goal of it in certain scenes. So that's what we'll talk about there. And obviously, when it comes to Succession, there's lots of overlap between homosociality and gay subtext.
Yeah.
Because men be hanging out, I guess, and sometimes, even though they're misogynistic, they're also being a bit gay.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can have one without the other, but, in Succession, they do overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which,
okay, so we want to quickly get this out of the way. We're going to talk about Tom Gregg. So the characters, Tom Woms, Gams, and Tom Woms. The two characters, Tom Woms, Gams, and Greg Hirsch, cousin Greg, their relationship is... Like, when people talk about Succession being gay online, like, they are probably the most visible example that is placed in front of you. So they're probably, like, the most easily identifiable queer resembling relationship in the show. It's been referred to as queerbaiting over the years, but I think is actually, like, a genuinely problematic homophobic joke.
Yep.
So much of this show is very much about homophobia, which I don't necessarily find that problematic, but I don't know, I feel like in this case, because the whole thing between Tom and Greg it's kind of like, haha, isn't it funny how this guy who's like constantly emasculated by his wife takes out his frustration on her cousin, and it's also a bit gay, in the way he does that. Yeah, it's not great, and I feel like to view it as gay is a trap. A very deliberate trap, because everything that Tom does to subjugate Greg is something that he wishes he could do to Shiv. Like, It's not gay, it's like, it's just hateful. It's
actually just he hates her. Like, he can't express that hate to her, so he directs it towards Greg, which is just blah. If you want to look at it in good faith, you could say that this is like a satire on the toxic masculinity and homosociality we were talking about, which it kind of is, but the joke still relies on the homophobia of the audience for it to come across as funny. Like, you're still...
It's low-hanging fruit.
It's low-hanging fruit. And this is a joke that Jesse Armstrong really likes for some reason.
Maybe not him specifically, but it is something that exists in, like, his previous work. For example, like The Thick of It, and also Veep, which he made with Armando Iannucci, which is like, it's like not necessarily Tom Gregg, but there are several relationships between men in these shows defined by that same power imbalance and use that same kind of homophobic humor. To his credit, like, this ramped up like in season 3 a lot, and I hated it. But I'm very glad to see that Jesse Armstrong took some criticism and he dialed it back in season 4.
I think that a lot of the people, the Tom Greggs, this is something you said there in our original episode, and I think it's very true. I think a lot of them... Actually, no, we weren't going to talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I was like, you know what? I don't want to throw... I'll just say it. I think Tom Gregg shippers are current or ex John Lockers. I'm just gonna, let's gonna finish that. Okay, anyway, to the main part.
I really want to encourage gay people who watch media to learn to identify when a piece of media is making fun of you.
Yeah.
I really want you guys to do that. Please, I'm on my hands and knees. It's time. that we learnt. Well, not we, but you learnt how to do that, because
I don't know.
just
It's like
because
the pendulum went in like a totally different direction, and I don't get it. And it's like we don't know anymore, but we do. We should. So anyway, time to start the actual episode.
Yeah.
Next big dot point: Logan's homophobia. Okay. So throughout Succession, there's like a very clear, distinct culture of homophobia that affects like how these characters are treated and also interact with each other in major ways. And, you know, in order for there to be homophobia, there has to be like some homo to be phobic about.
Yeah.
I think.
There has to be homo to be phobic about.
Unless you're like a high school kid in year 7 that, you don't need a reason to you don't. Yeah. Just homophobia like as a weapon of abuse. So Logan, the main character, is he a no?
The lead
so
actor
many people
of
like Logan, played by Brian Cox, who has been nominated several times actually as lead actor in Succession. He uses homophobia as a weapon of abuse, like particularly towards Kendall and Roman at their at their lowest points, actually ever, all the time. At all the points.
Every time.
Yeah. No, Logan, he just has the homophobia locked and loaded. It's just ready to go. Like season 4, episode 1, when Logan is just at the party asking people to roast him, and
Greg, to his credit, steps up to the plate and says, "Where are your kids, Uncle Logan?" To which he responds, "Still sucking cock at the county fair."
Yeah. You know, I mean, it's homophobia isn't funny, but just it's funny that he was so ready for him. It's like always at the back of his mind. Often just like a really jarring use of slurs. And, you know, there's a very most iconic scene between Logan and Kendall, and where he basically says, you know, not only was your failure a failure, it was also gay.
Let's not forget when they record all that stuff for like they do all the press stuff, and then Roman's just standing there being like, yeah, and I, you know, we recorded all this or whatever, and you know, I did this. And
is it gay to love your dad?
Yeah.
Okay, things that Logan Roy says is gay.
And then Logan calls Roman the F slur for just being like, yeah, I told them that I loved you, and Logan's response is to be like, oh, I didn't know you were a F slur. I'm not going to say that. Okay. But yeah, it's just, he has that. He said he
never figured him for one, which I think is a bit funny, because I was really like, obviously it's an awful thing to say to your son, but when I heard that line, I was like, really? Never? You never figured?
Yeah.
Okay, but
I think he's lying. I think he says these things like, oh, I didn't think you were, and it's just like, that's not true, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have said that. You know?
Since the series ended, the script books have been released. I've been working through them slowly, but something as well that is pretty funny that I think really speaks to this is in the script for the first episode, where Logan is trying to tell Marsha that he loves her, but he starts the sentence with, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of queer, but, you know... to which Marsha responds with, I love you too. So that's...
Fellas, is it gay to tell, to tell be a man and tell your wife that you love them?
Yeah, so it's gay to tell your wife that you love her, it's gay to love your dad, and it's also gay to vehicular manslaughter someone.
That's all very gay, actually, when you think about it, really.
It's just so ridiculous as well, because, you know, ignorance is ridiculous. When
that's kind of why I'm laughing, not because I think homophobia is funny, but just because thinking in that way is just so like it's obviously like very of its time in a way, like it's almost archaic, but it's not ridiculous, but it's not. It's not. Obviously it still happens.
Obviously we're looking at Logan like as an individual, but it really speaks to his politics as well.
So obviously what Succession is about, it's about who will inherit this media empire, the media empire that up to this point Logan has run and created, and what he believes, including the homophobia that we see him perpetuate. He also perpetuates that on a mass scale, politically, through the media that he runs and generates. Obviously there is a direct parallel to Rupert Murdoch, who serves as one of the main inspirations for Logan Roy. I feel like we as Australian viewers of Succession have a very different view of this, I'd say, to a lot of American viewers, because something that I I know about American viewers and their relationship to Murdoch Press is that for them, Murdoch Press is like still quite small. It's like essentially Fox News, which isn't to say that it doesn't have a lot of influence, but it's still like, for them, it is this like small slice of the pie that's just very, very loud. But when you are an Australian viewer viewing Succession, we are coming from a context where like Murdoch Press in Australia is 60% of all the news media in Australia. Over half. I can't stress enough that like what happens in Succession, like what you see of their influence on prime ministers and how they're kind of clawing for that in Succession.
Prime ministers and presidents, and yeah.
They don't claw for that here. They have that here because they control almost everything. Well, more than half of everything. And you can see that the conservative beliefs that the family hold and that, you know, founded the news press that they own on perpetuates that conservatism on a mass scale. In this country, you can just look at a lot of people have criticized Australia internationally for how behind we are on climate change. That is something that the Murdoch Press, which is just News Corp here, that has had a direct role in constantly undermining any, I won't even say progressive government, just any government's climate change policies.
To look at Logan and like the way that we've described his homophobia, obviously like it sounds really ridiculous in the way that he interacts with his immediate family and everything. What's scary is that he can execute this like on a mass scale and perpetuate this. And it really speaks to like the kind of power that he has.
Yeah. What he does in the micro is also in the macro. One of my favorite scenes in Succession, actually, like, it's not even just one scene. I love when Ewan, who is Logan's brother, comes into any scene because I know, like, he is my voice in this story. He is my voice in that he comes in and is like, my brother is a monster and has done this and look at all the bad things that he's done. And one of the points that he makes is that Logan's climate denial and the climate denial that Waystar Royco has perpetuated through their news media has probably killed more people than died in the Holocaust. Like, that's one of the big lines that Ewan has. Mm-hmm. And in Australia, this is so true that I need you to understand that up until very recently, the Murdoch Press, which, let I remind everyone, is 60% of the news media in this country, was totally denying climate change at all. Because Australia's number one export is coal, so we are very invested in fossil fuels, and so the Murdoch Press were like, well, we don't want to upset all the people that make the big money, so they would just fully be like, nah, we're not going to join the Paris Agreement, Paris Agreement's bullshit, all of that stuff. But then, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, it was sometime in the pandemic, I'm pretty sure, the News Corp media decided that they no longer wanted Scott Morrison, who was our Prime Minister before our current Prime Minister. They no longer wanted him to be Prime Minister because, well, quite frankly, he was an embarrassment and even an embarrassment to their standards. So they decided to completely undermine his new coal scheme by suddenly deciding to turn around and make all their newspapers, actually, we believe in climate change now, to further make Scott Morrison look like he was an idiot, which, you know, he was. But that's why they did it. They kind of turned around and decided, actually, yeah, we believe in climate change now because we always have, actually. Don't worry about what we said before. Climate change is real now. And everyone could see right through this because this is like par for the course in Australia, unfortunately. But it doesn't matter because we don't really have any power to stop it. And another thing that we're seeing it with now is also with the Voice
to Parliament
referendum, and we also saw it with the marriage plebiscite, the marriage equality plebiscite, which was the glorious time in this nation when the government had to sort of ask everybody in the country whether or not gay people should get married. And the Murdoch Press, and not just the Murdoch Press, Fairfax Press were doing it too, were basically like, but what if we shouldn't do that, actually?
What does this mean for our religious freedom?
Yeah, what does this mean to our religious freedom? Because that's the kind of conservative belief systems and just general conservatism that News Corp maintains. And it has essentially ensured that in Australia, at the very least, our politics are so regressed. I think a lot of people come here and they're often very surprised by how regressed a lot of our politics are. And a huge part of that, I won't say it's the only reason, but a huge player in the reason for that is the Murdoch press and the fact that it controls so much of public discourse and influences so much of public discourse. So when I watch Succession and I see Ewan come in and sort of criticize Logan's mass scale impact in that his beliefs, his conservative beliefs around climate change or around any global policy as conservative, I can't help but cheer a little because that's really what Rupert Murdoch has done, not only in this country but to a lot of Western countries. And obviously, like, the US is in the spotlight at the moment because of January 6th and Fox News, but I cannot stress enough to people who may not know that the reason he knows that works is because he did it here, and that's how he did it in the US. Yeah. Because he did it here first. It's important to just note that Succession is a political satire, and a lot of people will love to shoot down any kind of critiques of Succession with, but they're not real. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's a fine thing to say for a lot of things, but in Succession, like, this is deliberately trying to get you to think about real people. Succession started its life as a mockumentary about the Murdochs, so I don't think in this instance that you can say there's, like, no relevancy in bringing them up or, you know, paralleling what happens in Succession to real life, especially when it is extremely bold in how it deliberately picks locations and moments in history to deliberately evoke this history with the Murdochs and other media mogul families. So I don't...
It's deliberate subtext.
Yeah, it's important in understanding the subtext of this show to understand the political context of why it was written.
He has the power to maintain homophobic systems through media. So, like, his homophobia operates on a mass global scale. And that is what a character like Logan does. Like, not just with homophobia, but obviously with his racism and other forms of bigotry. Shout out to the gender fluid illegals entering the country twice.
Yes.
Back to looking at Logan's homophobia on a personal level, just in relation to the immediate characters. So something to note is that homophobia directed towards Kendall, it always manifests in criticism of his relationships with other men. For example, like Stewie, Lawrence, the waiter. And then the type of homophobia that Logan directs towards Roman is kind of about his entire self. Like, not necessarily, like, he's not even doing anything with any men. He's just...
He's just there.
He's just there.
It is worth noting that, as we were saying before, when you have a powerful person like this, the people around them obviously internalize and perpetuate, like, what they say because of their influence. And I think a notable place you can see this is that Shiv weaponizes homophobia against her brothers in the exact same way that Logan does to them, which is a huge win for me as a Shiv is the most like Logan truther.
I'm also a truther in that regard.
You're also a truther. Like, all the sexiest people Shiv is the most like Logan truther. But, you know, it is a huge win but also loss whenever Shiv is sort of like shitting on Roman for not having sex with women. It's like, woohoo! She's so much like her dad. Or she decides, to dethrone Kendall, like as she did in the finale, just because of seeing him with Stewie, in that sort of intimate way. Of course, like, her perpetuating this homophobia, like, does not save her. It does not make her any less of a woman. It does not give her the power that she really, really wants. One of the ways we hear about Roman's incidents with the personal trainer is that, Shiv brings this up to Logan. She sort of says, it's a potential problem. There's issues, Everyone says that he used to get jerked off by his personal trainer. And now there's this Jerry thing. She says it's a track record. Like, she is essentially weaponizing this gay instance. But also, I would argue that the second instance is something you could have legitimately just said, and then she could have, but I think she knows that her dad wouldn't particularly care about sexual harassment in that way.
Sexual harassment of women, yeah.
Yeah, he would have just been like, good for my son, he is doing that, I guess. But, for me, in these moments, I'm sort of like, girl, like, there's no amount of outing your brothers that's gonna make you less of a girl to your dad. Like, you will still be a woman. There is nothing that they can do as men that is as disqualifying as you being a woman in terms of this race.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think about how she's like, he thinks there's something wrong with you, Roman. And it's like, first of all, that's because you're the one you're also out here, like, egging him on, like, yeah, you're right, something is wrong with Roman, Dad, and that's why you shouldn't pick him. But also, I think, like,
Well,
I
there
think
is
Shiv
something
knows
wrong
that
with Roman.
there is something wrong with Roman, that is true. But it's not that he's potentially gay, it's like that he's a jerk.
It's that he's Roman.
It's that he's Roman.
There's no cure
but I
for
think,
that.
Shiv and Roman, I think, like, they're both failures in different ways, in the sense that, Roman is never going to be, like, a man in the way that his father expects him to be. And, of course, Shiv is never going to be a man because she is not a man.
Yeah.
So, neither of them...
And also with Kendall.
Yeah, and also with Kendall. But I think, for me, at least something that I interpret the way Shiv and Roman especially is, they're kind of, like, clawing to not be as wrong as they know that their father views them, but they're never going to win that battle. That's what I wanted to say with that section, that I think an interesting place that you can see the legacy and influence of Logan's misogyny and homophobia is in Shiv, is in the way that she says and parrots these exact same things to her brothers. And that's really awful, because on some level, she's also internalized these things about herself as well, which is, really tragic. But that's a tragedy for you.
Another key thing that's really important in the show is language, of course.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Succession is known very much for its dialogue and for having a lot of swearing and excessive use of sexual innuendo just to describe business deals, and also just anything, really.
Literally anything.
Literally anything. Except sex, most of the time.
Except sex!
This innuendo is pretty helpful for people in the audience who don't have business majors in understanding the plot. But something really clever about it is it's really important because it speaks to how these people view everything as transactional. Things like human intimacy and sexuality, like, they mean nothing to these people because, as we've mentioned, they have no humanity. Their use of this language also shows that strong culture of homosexual misogyny within the business. So, of course, a lot of the gay subtext that we see between these men manifests with this innuendo, which is established very early on. In some cases, it's flirty, or in some cases, it's just plainly degrading, traditionally. Or it's just misogynistic quite a lot of the time. In episode 1 of season 1, Kendall's first line in the meeting, are we ready to fuck or what, is very cringe. Like, it doesn't land. He's not good at it. He's not good at it in a business sense. I think he is a wordsmith in other ways, but no. Throughout this meeting, he uses flirty innuendo because he wants to buy Lawrence's business, Volter, which is like a website much like what BuzzFeed used to be. And so Lawrence...
Rest in peace, BuzzFeed.
Lawrence Yee, played by Rob Yang. He's actually one of Succession's few openly gay characters in this meeting, because obviously it's like the first scene of the show. We don't know this about him yet, but on a rewatch, it's really interesting reading into the way that Lawrence acts in this scene, because it's not just that he hates Kendall because Kendall sucks. It's also because Lawrence, as a gay man, can recognize Kendall's language for what it is, which is sexual harassment, as well as just homophobia.
If I had one of those little soundboard things, I would press a button that would be like, boo.
Yeah. Then Logan, come in with the steel chair.
He's really good at that. He's really good at coming
that.
in with the steel chair.
When Kendall leaves the deal to go to Logan's birthday party, Logan, takes Kendall into a little room, and one of the first things he says, because the deal isn't going well, is, I heard you bent for him and he fucked you. So Logan, he uses that innuendo to degrade Kendall for his failure, like, not only because he's wasting $120 million on a gay little website, but his failure to close the deal is as bad to Logan as it is being sodomized by a man willingly, which is the worst thing that can happen to you, according to Logan.
The thing I find interesting about it as well is because we just saw Kendall do that to somebody else, and then his father is doing it to him.
Hierarchies of abuse.
People often joke Succession is about the cycle of abuse, but it really is about that.
Yeah.
It's about, like, what is modeled to you, you will do to others.
As we mentioned before, in the way that Shiv mirrors Logan with homophobia, this is something that Kendall does too.
They all do.
They all do it. What you see is what you know. It's also used as a tool to enforce rape culture that excludes women like Shiv from ever making it into the true inner circle of the boys' club. Like, one of the biggest examples you see of this is in Kill List, when Matsson hugs Kendall and then he hugs Roman just to greet them. And then when he gets to Shiv, he's like, if I hug you, do I get a lawsuit? Because Succession, like, amongst many things, is also a show that explores workplace sexual harassment and corporate abuse of women. And so that exchange with Matsson, and there are other instances in the show as well, like, it shows, like, this really common phenomenon in workplaces post Me Too 2016, where men will say things like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I can't say that anymore when they're interacting with women because they don't want to risk being called out for sexual harassment. But the funny thing is about that is that despite this awareness, they still sexually harass women.
Because they talk like that all the time,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like an element for the women. It blurs the lines of where they probably like get so used to it in a way where when they're actually being sexually harassed, it's for people in these situations, it's like very hard. Because it's like, well, they talk like that all the time, you know, it's kind of normal, which is horrible. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I think about that all the time with Jerry. I think, like, what has she endured from these people?
Nah, for real. I feel like, you know, there's the hesitancy when it comes to Shiv because Shiv is quite untouchable at her position, whereas for every other woman, that's not the case. Towards the end of the series, it does become like that for Shiv.
That's still not enough to save Shiv from
doesn't
that
save
treatment.
her. Doesn't save her. But yeah, you were talking about Jerry.
That's it. I was just going to say, you know, we see her endure things like in the time that we see her in the show, but, you know, it's implied she's been at Waystar for a very long time, and she talks to Roman like she says, you know, I've been successful because I keep my nose out of things. We get implications of like what she's seen and what she knows about, but it's like, what has she herself had to go through in this company to be where she is? I just think about that a lot because I love Jerry. Jerry's my fave.
I love Jerry.
Because she's one of the few women, like, other than Shiv. There are not that many women in Waystar.
Yeah.
You've got Shiv, you've got Jerry, you've got Jess. Because there are so few women, that language that you're talking about, not only does it exclude them even when they're there, like it just excludes them on a very higher level. Women just don't get to be in this company. You see that with Rhea as well. She can't be there. There's just not that many women, and you know why.
Yeah.
Another early place where you see this language is the way Roman talks to Jerry. One of her earliest scenes, the way Jerry is introduced after she sort of ushers Kendall in and tells him what's happening because Logan is quote-unquote dying. Not quite fast enough, but he is.
But never soon enough!
We're gathered here today because someone hasn't fucking died yet. But after she does that, Roman and Kendall and Shiv, they're all trying to surreptitiously be like, I should be seeing her because Dad's dying. But they don't want to do that, so they're trying to come up with a person they can put forward first before they put forward for themselves. And Roman thinks of Jerry because, well, why not? She's a star. And he tries the small talk thing and asks how her husband is. It's so funny. He's like, how's your husband? She's like, he's dead. She's like, this child. The next thing he says to her is like, look, I'm not really good at the corporate flirting. I just like to lube up and fuck. I think you're a, stone cold killer bitch or whatever. Which he's saying that like, in brackets, affectionate. And she's just sort of like, oh, who says you don't know how to flirt? That's the way Roman speaks to Jerry. The way that Roman speaks to Jerry is the way that Roman speaks to a lot of the other men. But I think an interesting thing to note with this sexual allegory language that they all use, I think Roman uses it to a much more visceral degree than everybody else. And he definitely dials it way, way up the more under pressure that he is. Even I, as a Roman Roy enjoyer, even I, in Church and State, I was like, if someone does not pepper spray him so he stops talking, I'm gonna be sick. Because there was just... there's so much of it. I couldn't...
Some people sexually harass their own sisters to cope.
Not enough people talk about how Roman talks to Shiv because it is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Part of my theory with this is that Roman is aware that people are aware, or at least he's aware that he doesn't actually lube up and fuck.
Yeah.
He does not do that. He does other things.
He goes into the bathroom.
My humble theory, which is not a very it's a very Freudian one, but I do think he overcompensates because he is very much humiliated by his father for not being able to have sex traditionally. So he decides to sort of compensate for it by using this extremely graphic sexual language all the time.
Like a teenage boy.
Even with his own sister, with everyone, and it's deeply uncomfortable. I joke about, why don't people like Roman? But I know why they don't like Roman. I know why.
He's vile!
He's vile. He's a disgusting little guy. Unfortunately, I'm just deeply entertained by that.
Yeah, that's okay.
He weaponizes the sexual language because that's kind of the only thing he does have, because he can't weaponize sex in the way, or sexuality even, in the way that the men around him can. He probably feels he's like got a deficit because of that he has to make up for. And that just plays out, in the language. I guess this is partly why I find him so funny, because it's so obvious to me that it's way too over the top. I work with teenagers, and like whenever Roman talks, I think it's like such a good performance from Kieran, because what he's doing is he's doing the same thing that teenage boys do when they learn swear words, and they're like, I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna do fucking this and fucking that, and you're like, yeah, okay. All right, dial it down. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, I get it. You have testosterone in your system. Well done. That's what it puts me in mind of.
Mary's a teacher, by the way.
Oh yeah, I work as a casual teacher, and I see that all the time specifically with teenage boys, and I think we're going to talk about later how these characters are quite regressed because of what's happened to them throughout their lives. Mm-hmm. And I think an easy place where you can see that with Roman is the way he uses this language, because it is very much like in the way that a teenage boy uses swear words, like in that over-enthusiastic, like, look at me, I'm so big and I'm so terrifying, and it's like, no. You're just being silly. You're just being silly, and you're making everybody uncomfortable. I know I read a bit of the script books, and I know that, like, this is literally the way the other characters see him. They sort of just go, okay, like, thank you for that.
Roman has written a screenplay. Sorry. I love that line so much. It's so mean.
It's so mean.
But also I'm curious now.
I know. I don't think we ever said this on the podcast, but, like, one of my... before season 4, I think, even started, like, one of my theories for how Roman would end up, when I was allowing myself to imagine a happy-ish ending, I would be like, it'd be nice for him to go to Hollywood. He seemed to be really enthusiastic about Hollywood. Like, maybe he can go and write some mediocre Nepo baby scripts and have fun. Like, he may as well, because that's one of the first things we learn about him, is that he, like, enjoyed the movie part, which is also a nod to Lachlan Murdoch, by the way. But yeah, he's compensating for the fact that he can't have sex, but that also feeds into, like, everything else he's repressing. Something that I think is very interesting is that I don't think for Roman that there is a difference between business and fucking as there is for everyone else, because he doesn't fuck, so there can't be. Roman Roy is what happens to a motherfucker who's just so repressed and has internalized every single bad emotion, experience, and thought that they've ever had, and has never processed any of it, and is trying to desperately pretend that they have not done that, and is steadily losing control on the repressed mass inside them.
Oh.
And he's my special boy. That's the other thing that you should know about him. And he has mastered the art. And because I do think it's an art when you watch him do it. He has mastered the art of tightroping, like a dancing little monkey, the line between homosexuality and just being straight up gay. And you might be asking, how? Well, I'll tell you. So I did not initially use this phrase to describe Roman, but I've made some Roman content in my time on Tumblr, and I don't think I'd ever heard this phrase before. Maybe I did and forgot. But, like, he really is like a glass closet case. In many ways, I think. Like, I think everyone around Roman kind of knows that he's, I'll just say, not straight.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't really look inward to that part. He doesn't really define himself any particular way. And one way you know this is, like, Logan, Jerry, and Kendall are aware that Roman has this...
And Shiv. So really everyone, yeah.
And everyone kind of knows he has this affinity with guys that goes just beyond being good with people, because one thing I firmly believe about Roman Roy is that he's not good with people. I know people like to think that he's, like, such a good people person and he's, like, an empathetic king. No, I don't think that's not true, and I think the affinity he has with these men is something else. They basically, like Logan, Jerry, Kendall, Shiv, all of them, they kind of weaponize this to their advantage by getting Roman to, quote-unquote, like, this is the phrase they use in the first series with Lawrence, to, quote-unquote, like, wine and dine prospective men who want to do deals with Waystar or are in the midst of doing deals with Waystar. Lawrence is, of course, the first person we see Roman do that with, but we also see Roman told to do that with Eddard and also
it's like
Mattson.
A whole courtship with Eddard.
Yeah, really. It's a whole thing. They're all people Roman is sent to woo, for better and a lot worse. And he is successful in this wooing a lot of the time, for one exception, except probably in Mattson's case, not for their sake, but for Waystar's.
Yeah.
On a side note, the only other character who I'd talk about in relation to Roman sexuality that hasn't got anything to do with that kind of weird wooing thing that Roman fills the role of is the Thing trademark that he has with his personal trainer. This is mentioned by other people within the story. It's not just something we see in episode 3. Like, we see Roman at the gym.
I love how it's literally just that episode, though.
He went to the gym once.
He went to the gym once, and then, like, his back hurt, and he was like, not doing that again. That's so true.
He's just like me for real. But yes, there are rumors that are mentioned, like, within the story that other characters are aware of, namely Jerry and Shiv, that Roman allegedly was, like, jerked off by his personal trainer. And that is mentioned as potential, like, dirt that could be dug up on him. When Jerry mentions this to him, he doesn't really deny it. He's just sort of like, no.
What are you talking about? Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that, Jerry.
This is an HBO show. Most of the ones that I've seen up to that point, like, they've been quite sexually graphic a lot of the time. I remember watching that scene with the personal trainer and be like, whoa, is he having, like, no real background for Roman at all. I was like, excuse me?
Hello?
And then I was like, oh, it's HBO. Is it this kind of show?
Yeah.
But then it wasn't. But, like, it's not that I wanted it to be, but I really, like, from that scene, it's very charged.
And, shout out to Kieran for doing all of that. Shout out to Kieran for wearing his little bracelets for that scene. He doesn't really deny the whole thing, these allegations, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But it is worth mentioning that the personal trainer, like, is basically his employee.
Yeah.
That's someone he's paying, which is consistent for Roman when you think about it.
Mm.
Lots to talk about there. Roman is, like, very flirty, question mark, with this man. The stretching scene, which we just discussed. There's a lot there in the way that it is acted. I know, didn't you say, Dea, that there's, like, nothing in the script about how this is meant to be?
It's just like, oh yeah, he's stretching him. That's it. I know that's like someone doing their job. I don't know. I think because, like, Roman is so laid back and just, like, talking so freely about, like, all this shit, and also, like, the way that he's bragging as well about how big and important he is
trying to be like, I'm so manly, I'm so cool, like
mm-hmm.
you don't understand how cool I am, like, you should listen to how cool I am.
Mm-hmm. And the trainer is like, yep, sure, like, they're a professional. He's a professional.
There's the whole joke about the PT kind of messing up his back, which I've watched enough homophobic television in my time to spot, like, a sort of homophobic gag.
I actually didn't think of that before now.
That drags on for, like, an episode after that Roman has, like, a fucked up back.
Okay.
Because of the session with the personal trainer. There's a subtext to that, I feel. Even if it wasn't intended to be that kind of gag, the whole personal trainer thing is absolutely sort of intended to show how Roman fails at that culturally dominant idea of masculinity. And those scenes kind of happen in contrast with Kendall's weird American Psycho macho morning routine as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
But it's kind of, like, funny to me because both of those things in contrast are so gay because they're in opposite ends. One is, like, very extreme. Kendall doing his little, like, like, punchy thing in the apartment. Roman just absolutely failing. In terms of the men that Roman Roy is sent to woo, the first one we have is Lawrence, bestie Lawrence. I just want to say as a side note, it's very crazy to me that Arian was originally going to play Lawrence. And then he didn't get that role, and then they brought him back for Stewie. I read somewhere that he played Stewie as gay because he was basically, like, said to them, oh, you want me to play the same kind of character? Okay.
Oh my god.
I love kind of alternate casting things. I like imagining how that would have turned out. And I'm kind of glad that Arian is Stewie, though, because we got to see more of him than we did of Lawrence here.
Yeah. Lawrence is such a good character. Well, maybe not a good character, but he's just, like, very underrated in that, like, he's so mean. Actually, like, I think he's one of the meanest.
He is so
mean.
He
says some of the meanest things in this whole show.
Yeah.
Even though it's, like, vile. It's still just fun when he's around because, he's just a non-Roy character that's there to, like, dish out shit. He's not part of their social circle, it is worth saying, he's Asian as well.
He's not in deference to them in any way. The characters that are not in deference to the Roys are amazing.
I just get, like, kind of sad when I watch the first episode and I see Lawrence, threatening Kendall, and he's like, I'm gonna eat you all, one by fucking one. And then he doesn't do that. In the finale where they mention him as, like, someone that Mattson might be looking for as CEO, I was like, Lawrence, are we gonna see Lawrence again? No, we didn't.
He's like a Doctor Who Christmas special villain. He's just... He's kind of cool, but he kind of never turns up ever again.
Yeah, Lawrence and your gay little website, you will always be famous.
I think about all the time that Roman describes, like, him and Lawrence, like, two, quote-unquote, metrosexual peas in a pod. First of all, I just think Roman is insane for using that word in what would have been 2018 at the time. I remember having like a visceral reaction to him using that word because I had not heard that word in so long.
Yeah.
It had been such a long time since I'd heard that word.
What does metrosexual mean, Mary?
In the mid-late noughties, early 10s, we had this word, metrosexual, and it was designed to sort of describe men who allegedly...
Straight men who wash their hair.
Weren't gay, but like wanted to groom themselves. But essentially what it became was essentially a way to describe men who were probably gay because they groomed themselves. And I think it's interesting that Roman uses that word because Roman is of the age group that I'd expect to use a word like that. So I just think that's funny. But, number two, it's like, that's an interesting word for you to choose, Roman. Is it a Freudian slip there? I don't know. We first learned that Lawrence is gay. I think Kendall calls Lawrence at the end of episode 2 to basically try to make sure that Lawrence doesn't spread the rumors or like doesn't talk shit about them anywhere so that their stock doesn't fall. Kendall's trying to be tough and remind him that, if that happens, the deal will go bad. Lawrence, of course, like doesn't give a shit about Kendall, so he just basically goes, okay, Kendall, cool, and then hangs up after saying some mean shit because that's Lawrence, baby. But we learn because, in that scene we see Lawrence on the phone and he gets out of bed and he's in bed with a man. He's in bed with his partner.
And then you actually see them together when he goes with Roman.
Yes, and so when Roman is told to wine and dine Lawrence, he is also wining and dining Lawrence and his husband. I think they're married, actually. And you see Roman, take them out for dinner. This is Roman's job. There's sort of this moment where Roman allegedly jokingly, says he wishes he could, have sex with Lawrence and his boyfriend because they're such a hot couple. Lauren kind of calls his bluff. Pretends or does actually take him seriously, we'll put you on the list. And Roman gets this most insane look on his face, he goes through the 7 stages of grief in 0.5 seconds, and then I think he kind of thinks to himself, I can't do that on so many levels, I can't do that. And so he just doesn't, and Kieran does this weird, flirty, sad shame thing with his face. The next man that Roman is sent to woo is Eddard. Jerry basically instructs Roman to go seduce this very rich Saudi guy so that Waystar can have private backing, because at that point Jerry knows that the scandal with the serial sexual harassment and abuse allegations with cruisers are about to come out. Jerry's like, well, we need to have some financial backing that is independent of the market because, our stocks will go. So she instructs Roman to go woo this Saudi guy called Eddard so that, Waystar can have this private backing. And Roman, of course, because he's Roman, is like, oh, gee, okay, well, if I have to go. And of course, I think it's interesting, there's plenty of legitimate reasons and excuses Roman has to do this being giddily run around after a very handsome man. There's obviously impressing Jerry, because obviously there is nothing straighter than, going and flirting with a guy for weeks on end than doing it because you like a girl, ? That makes it okay, I guess. There's also Roman's always looking for his dad's approval, and obviously if he can secure this private funding for Waystar, that'll be great. His dad will be like, well done, Roman, you are so masculine and manly, excellent work. Even with all those reasons, when you think about all of that, when you think about how he's trying to secure this backing and he's trying to impress Jerry and trying to impress his dad, I really want to know, which one of those reasons that he, told himself when he decided to go and lick Eddard's neck.
Much to think about.
I think what is most important about Eddard is that we have an epic compilation of failed masculinity with this sort of soccer team debacle where Roman attempts to buy a soccer team at Eddard's suggestion because, well, number one, he wants to show Eddard that he's open to Eddard's suggestions and ideas, and number two, he wants a present for his dad's anniversary with the company, and so Roman decides oh, I'll buy this soccer team because I think it's my dad's favorite one. Spoilers, it's not. It's not his dad's favorite soccer team. Obviously, I don't have any proof, but I do feel like this is a nod very specifically just for a little fun real-life context to this sequence, because I think it is much funnier when you know this.
Yeah.
I think that this is a reference to the fact that in Australia, there was this thing that Lachlan Murdoch, who is Rupert Murdoch's I always forget he's the oldest boy. Rupert sent Lachlan to Australia to live here, and also while Lachlan was here, I don't know how many of our listeners watched Ted Lasso, but the idea was basically the idea in the most recent season of Ted Lasso, which was basically like a super league where players would be poached from teams around the world, or in this case just around Australia, and then they would just play each other in sort of like a tournament for fans. But the thing about Australia that I know for a fact that Rupert Murdoch would have understood, but Lachlan wouldn't have because he lived in America, is that Australians are really fucking serious about
footy,
about the teams being the teams that they are. And I know for a fact that Rupert would have known this was a fucking shit idea, but I guess he had $200 million to waste to teach his son a lesson about, like, getting to know your target audience. Because obviously this Super League was such a flop, it went so badly that people wanted Lachlan Murdoch's dual Australian citizenship to be confiscated. Yeah, so I think when you know that, this is even funnier. In the context of Succession, I think they do really well to show how Roman knows nothing about soccer, let alone how much his dad likes soccer. I love the scene where Roman is giving the pep talk to the soccer team. It's deeply funny to me. Go you. Lovely bastard. It's a rich tapestry of failure. Not just failure in general of like what he wanted to do allegedly with this team, which is give it as a gift to his dad, but just a failure in general of like, this is a masculine thing, like a very manly sport. It is something that his dad views as like a manly sport, and Roman has no idea about it. He's failing epically. And I think that's arguably like one of the gayest things about him in many ways. This sort of ends in a very traumatic sequence of events for Roman where he goes to Saudi Arabia to pitch to Eddard's family about why they should invest in Waystar. The family basically agrees straight away. They take essentially the first deal that Roman offers, and Roman's little businesses prick up and go, it doesn't seem like it should be that easy.
I always forget that Roman gets taken hostage. I always forget that. It feels like in Hamlet when he gets kidnapped by pirates, but it doesn't matter. And then he comes back and he's fine. Like, it feels like that.
I mean, I would argue that Roman is not fine when he comes back, but, you know.
He's got a yacht to go back to.
I specifically remember thinking while I was watching this episode, because Roman's obviously sitting in the hostage situation, he's like, okay, let's play Fuck, Marry, Kill. And I was like, wow, he's just like me. Like, because any bitch who knows me knows that I will take any opportunity to play Fuck, Marry, Kill. I just sit and play it with myself. The whole Eddard courtship, alas, it ends with nothing. There is an interesting scene, though, where Shiv does say, are you sure the deal is bad, or are you just racist? And Roman sort of goes, I don't know, I could be racist. The next connection we see Roman make is Tabitha. Tabitha, I've learned her last name is Hayes. That's how she's credited. We never hear her last name, though, in the show, though she's affectionately called Tabitha Succession by most. So it's very important for me to say at the start of this point that I'm not Logan Roy. I do not see Roman's inability to have traditional sex. I don't see that as a bad thing, good thing. I just see it as like a thing about him. For me, I see it as something that's clearly connected to a whole bunch of physical trauma that he's experienced. The show implies that he's experienced like both a lot of like violence like from his family and also something very likely like related to sexual trauma. We don't know that because obviously Succession never like reveals fully what the context of the subtext of these things are. It's very clearly implied that that's what it is. I don't see that as an evidence that of his sexuality itself, just that it's connected to the
it's something that makes him sexually non-conforming.
Yeah, it's something that does make him non-conforming, but it's definitely not something that really informs his orientation, if you like. I do think there's an ability to like have conventional sex with the women we see, or even with men. It's more of a product of him like not being able to confront his own desires or anything really like deeper about himself. What interests me about Roman is that he's deeply not introspective at all. And I think that's in part because, he's just repressed everything. And he knows that if he was ever introspective for even a minute, he would just find raging fires of torture inside himself. He's just a very not introspective character. And I think this inability to have conventional sex is connected to that as well. And I think what's interesting about Tabitha, I mean, I love Tabitha. I should say on a side note, I'm not just interested in Tabitha because of this aspect of Roman. I think Tabitha is like so cool. She's one of the coolest people ever in the show. She's got big hair and they're full of secrets. But I do think it's interesting with Roman and Tabitha is Tabitha, for all we know, like she genuinely likes Roman.
Yeah, she's like very cool with his whole deal. She doesn't really come across like as even in like a gold digging way.
I think she's rich.
Yeah, no, of course she is.
Tabitha is someone who's really interesting because you really can't say that she's there for anything other than Roman's company because she clearly doesn't need money. She doesn't appear to be a social climber of any kind. So, and Roman even remarks like that she doesn't ask about any of that stuff. She's not interested. She just, dare I say, like a friend.
A friend.
A friend. And, Roman is like quite amazed by that she's not there for any of that. And I think some of my favorite scenes with Roman are with Tabitha because they're kind of just really nice, obviously up to a point.
Yeah.
Something that happens that I really love, and my brother and I quote this scene to each other because we think it's so funny. When Roman suggests to Shiv that him and Tabs have dinner with her and Tom, Shiv kind of gives him a little bit of shit because obviously that doesn't usually happen with Roman. He doesn't really be social with whoever he's seeing. And, Shiv sort of like gives him a bit of shit for it and he just goes, oh yeah, we're going to have an adult conversation. We're going to have kale, race relations. He really enjoys like having Tabitha around and he invites her to all these places. I don't think it's until later.
It's Turnhaven.
In Turnhaven when he sort of asks her about Naomi because they're friends. Girl best friends.
Or like episode before Turnhaven or something.
Before Turnhaven and sort of asks if she can give him insider info on the Pierces. And she does. For that episode up until, of course, it goes a bit awry. They're just kind of nice. But I think one of the things she shows as a character is how even when he has someone in his life who is essentially a good friend to him, as good a friend as you can probably find in that world, someone who is genuinely into him as far as we can see, and someone who is taking all of his quote-unquote deals in her stride for the most part, like he still can't actually have conventional sex with her. And I think it just shows that whatever it is that has happened to Roman that makes it hard for him to do that, it's just impossible. He just can't engage with himself that way. I think Kieran said something in an interview, I think it was for Variety, he said he doesn't think about Roman's sexuality deliberately because he thinks that Roman doesn't think about it. And I think the analogy he uses is, I don't think about Roman's sexuality in the same way that I don't think about golf because I don't know how to golf, so why would I think about golf? I don't know anything about golf, but I know that in order to be good at golf you have to know all these things, and I don't know that, and so I don't think about it. And he sort of uses that same analogy. Tabitha, I think, is important to bring up because she is someone who, if it was gonna be anyone, if someone who ticks all those boxes, it was her, and he still can't do it. I think that's also in line very much with what Jesse Armstrong says about the show, in that these people, they can't change. That's kind of that relationship, and unfortunately it drops off. I don't think we see Tabitha after the very ill-fated attempt between Tabitha and Roman to try and have sex, which, as we know, doesn't go very well. The last shot we ever see of Tabitha in the show is watching L to the OG, and she's having the time of her life. That's why I think she's quite an iconic character.
Yeah.
I'll finish this point by saying Tabitha is another one of the few, like, openly not straight characters. She's bi, and we know this because she tells Roman that's how she knows Naomi.
And he's like, ew.
Ew! He's like, ew, you had sex with a girl? That sounds so disgusting. That's gross. We meet Naomi in that episode, Naomi of Tabitha's ex-girlfriend fame. Something that I also observe about Naomi and Tabitha, because they are both bisexual, and also you have like Lawrence Yee. Most of the gay characters or openly not straight characters in the show, their primary contacts, the people they interact with most, are Kendall and Roman. And obviously that could be like coincidental because obviously Kendall and Roman are two of the main characters in the show. There are some of these scenes that feel very deliberate to me. When you're talking about Kendall, I have a point about Naomi there to make, and I'll
Yeah.
talk about that later. But yeah, Tabitha, she's bisexual. We literally don't see her interact with anyone other than Roman and Naomi. Oh, of course we do see her interact with Tom, iconically.
One of my favorite things that Roman ever does in this show is get with Tabitha. I love the photo shoot scene
I
at the
love
wedding,
it. Oh my gosh.
and Tom's just losing his mind. I love it. In the Kale race relations episode as well, she has such a chill attitude that she's able to joke about it as well, when she was like, maybe you should swallow something.
Like honey.
Amazing.
She's so cool. I aspire to be as cool as Tabitha. In relation to Roman's relationships with women, I obviously can't talk about that without talking about Jerry. I don't need to touch on it that much, but what I will say is that Roman's degradation kink with Jerry, that's not actual power. What Roman might want from Jerry in a sexual situation, it's absolutely not translatable in the actual world that they operate in. And I'm not a kink expert, but I do know for a fact that just because she can do that with him in a certain context, that does not mean that she has any power over him, and we know that, we see that, because when it comes to light that he is sexually harassing her, like, constantly, it is Jerry that receives the entire blame for that situation, even though, as we all know, it is Roman who instigates all of that. What I do love about Roman and Jerry, though, is I just love Kieran and Jay. I just think they're fabulous. As I was saying with Tabitha and Roman's whole block, I don't think the kink situation that he has with Jerry is necessarily something about his orientation. I think it's all about power and the sort of weird subversion of it that occurs when they're doing that. But I don't think it's actually real. I just want to say that my favorite fan cam in the entire world is, I don't know who you are, but the TikToker who made that fan cam of Roman and Jerry to Does Your Mother Know That You're Out? The Christine Baranski version. That is my favorite Succession fan cam. I don't know who you are, but I just know that you have like great taste in that most of that fan cam is just Jerry looking at Roman with absolute disgust. Thank you for making that. I saw the vision and I love, as I pointed out, Tabitha really is Roman's only relationship that is not transactional, although it does kind of become that way, and I guess you could say that you know, that kind of is the beginning of the downfall of it. But initially it isn't, and you can see this with all the characters because this show is about capitalism and about how hyper-capitalism just, it rots us all to the core. Especially for these people, they are in the upper echelons of it. Their whole lives are defined by this currency that they cannot see and that isn't even real. With Roman, you can really see how capitalism, and especially like neoliberalism, which is the idea that in a marketplace, like everything about an individual is their responsibility and is also openly available to the market. And I think you can clearly see this with Roman and how all his dalliances, all his connections either are transactional or become transactional, and then they're kind of discarded when they're completed, when the transaction is finished. He doesn't really maintain any of these relationships beyond the transaction. His life, like everybody else in Succession, it's just selling bits of himself in the hope that you'll get interest on an investment. I think this is something, hopefully, that we all don't experience to this extent, but, you know, there's lots of interesting writing about this in the way that capitalism has made, like, seeking out relationships very much like a marketplace and very transactional, like with dating apps and stuff. And the effect of capitalism and the ideology of capitalism on relationships is something that Succession explores in lots of different ways. But I think this idea that all relationships are transactional, all of them, is something you can really see with Roman, because you really can't separate for him the business. All of his, you know, courtships with these men happen because of business, because he's trying to secure these deals. And even though it doesn't begin that way with Tabitha, you know, eventually he kind of uses her with the Pierce deal. It's tragic. Capitalism kind of corrupts everything because it forces you to view and act in a transactional way. With the Roys, they're just as capitalist as it gets, baby.
So true.
You know, Succession is a story about a world where love has the least amount of monetary value. The love is there, it's not worth anything. The capital is worth something, like, more than the love actually is. I do think in all these relationships, not necessarily all of them with Roman, but just in all the relationships in Succession, whether they're sibling relationships, family, whatever, there's usually something genuine, like there's a nugget, you know, in there somewhere of like a genuine human thing, and it just gets corrupted. Once you kind of figure that out, it's kind of really disheartening. I remember watching the finale, like Roman like having these nice moments with his siblings. I was like, oh, this won't last. I remember thinking, like, watching that beach scene, I was like, this is the high. This is the bring you up, put you down.
I was like, they're this happy in the middle of the episode. Oh.
The love is there. It's not worth anything. And that's because capitalism ruins everything. I don't know. I can't think of a more eloquent way to end that point, but yeah.
Okay.
What's the next? Do I have another point under that? No, it's you. It's Stewie!
Oh, yeah, Stewie. Actually, it's Kendall by way of Stewie. Okay, so it's Kendall time. We've had enough of Roman. Who actually, no, we haven't. He comes up significant. There's just so much. There's just like Roman is never beating the allegations. Okay, so Kendall Roy. He is not my special boy. He is he's my ambiguous disorder girl. Like he is.
Ah, yes.
The thing I love. Okay, so I don't like Roman.
Really? Would never have known.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't like Roman. I do think he's a really good character, and I do agree with everything that Mary says about him. But Roman's shame is not cinematic, and that's not actually something that I hate him for, because like that speaks to Roman's character in that like everything he does, you know, is like very internal and hidden, and like, you know, in the bathroom behind closed doors and things like that. Roman's shame is not cinematic, and that is why Succession is the Kendall Roy show, because Kendall's shame is like everything. I think the worst thing about Kendall, which is also like the thing that makes him so entertaining, is that he actually doesn't have shame. The only shame that he feels is what's been enforced by Logan. So when he does feel shame in these situations, he tries to prove that he isn't feeling it in the most bonkers, insane ways possible. And that's just what I love about him. His shame is so cinematic.
And that's why he's never beating the allegations. Because
that's why he's never beating the allegations either. But at the same time, like, that's something as well. I don't know. I do think that Kendall's just bisexual and it's not really relevant to the plot, but also it is, you know? And it's one of those things that, you know, he can get away with outside of the view of Logan. But anyway. The thing about subtext relating to Kendall is that I can't really explain it without talking first about Stewie Hosseini. So actually, you know what? I'm Team Stewie. Like, Stewie is my special boy. Stewie is the real winner of Succession.
It's true. It's true.
The queer subtext relating to Kendall is impossible to separate from Stewie, because Stewie is a character that exists to inform us on Kendall's backstory, like functionally within the story. Obviously, like, he does have relevance to the plot, but for the most part, what you see happening like with Stewie is you find out, you know, Kendall backstory lore, which is pretty cool. So Stewie Hosseini, he's a private equity corporate raider. He's Ken's college roommate.
And they were roommates.
And he kisses guys on Molly. He's played by the beautiful Aaron Myers, king of limp wrists and ankle cleavage. And we are first introduced to Stewie in like episode 3, Lifeboats. Yeah. He's in a cafe meeting up with Kendall, licking donuts, being obscene. And at this point, like, we are aware that Kendall has a history of addiction. We hear about it from Lawrence negging him about it, Rava separating with him over it.
Rava,
and of course, like,
brutally brings
Rava,
it up.
like, brutally separating with him over it in a way that, you know, I don't blame her.
No,
and
I
of
don't
course,
blame her
Logan
either.
using his history to invalidate him.
He's very ableist towards Kendall for that. Like,
Yeah. And so Stewie is the first character that we see who asks Ken to, you know, and he makes jerk-off motions. Hand job motions as he asks this to do some drugs. So we're introduced to Stewie as one of Kendall's Kendallers. As one of Kendall's enablers. As like one of
that's
Kendall's
what you are. You're a
enablers.
Kendler. You're not Team
I'm a
Kendall, you're a
Kendler.
Kendler. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, because like I realized like towards the end of the show that so much of my enjoyment from Succession comes out of voyeurism. So like when like I see Kendall fans mad about the finale, I'm mad about it in a different way, in that like I wanted him to lose in a different way, and I also wanted him to suffer even more But
Yeah.
that didn't. Yeah, he's fine. He's all fine, guys. He's literally fine.
I
Don't
just think
worry
it's
about
really
him.
hard for us to accept that like these people will never suffer enough
Yeah,
for our liking.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no. So yes, back to Stewie. He's one of Kendall's enablers from his previous life, and they have that kind of connection where they can go in the middle of a crowded cafe. They can go into the shitty little bathroom and do some coke together, which is interesting because, of course, like there is a lot of gay subtext in images of men being in bathrooms together that has a very significant like queer history to it. We've got some more bathroom talking points coming up later on in this
More bathrooms
episode.
coming up.
Also, yeah, I wrote this note, and so this is for you, Mary.
Aw, thanks.
For you as a something as well that, you know, someone could infer from the editing choices of this is these scenes of Kendall and Stewie at the cafe / in the bathroom are intercut with Roman masturbating in his office. So literally like it cuts between, yes,
wow.
they are. Yeah.
Okay, I've never noticed that.
So it's like I'm trying to have a good time. But you know, and then it cuts to Roman. But yeah, so like literally like it cuts like it's like Kendall and Stewie, then shot of Roman wiping his semen off the glass, back to Kendall and Stewie, and I'm like, So I don't know, like does that strengthen the
sure,
subtext,
that's something.
do you think?
I do think, you know, especially when you consider the hand job motion that came before that. I think that there is something to that, definitely.
I feel like, because, you know, I feel like the Ken Stewie girlies will hate me for mentioning that because I feel like we all hate Roman, but that's, but like, you know what, like come on.
It's one of my greatest pride that I have Team Ken people following me despite being a Team Roman person. It makes me feel like I'm normal,
it's
because
rotten work.
Makes me feel like I, you know, either that I'm very cool about it, or that you guys just all love me very much. Either way, I win, so it's nice.
So also, the point of this. So yeah, the point of this meeting between Kendall and Stewie is after being in the little bathroom together with Kendall, Stewie very kindly offers Kendall $4 billion. Well, actually, Stewie doesn't offer, like Kendall does the pleading emoji face. And he makes his way into the company that way. And so one thing about like Kendall and Stewie, that backstory, like it shifts over the course of the series because we first know that they were in college together. So basically, like what we do know is that Kendall's family, they all know Stewie. Like Roman knows him, Shiv knows him. But each time that Logan meets Stewie, he pretends that he doesn't know who he is. Even though this man has been in his son's life for at least 20 plus years.
And probably more,
considering
the
the later lore we are given. This is peak disapproving parent-in-law behavior. Like, my brother is happily married with 3 kids to a woman that he has known since he was a teenager, and whenever my mom is giving him like a lecture on life advice or whatever, she will talk to him as if he is a widow. That is
no, but Sam is so beautiful. Sam is so lovely.
She is.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, it's awful, but like, you know, when I see Logan do that, I'm like, oh, it's just like.
My sister is gay, and I've seen people in my family treat my sister's partners the same way. So, yes, this is definitely something that homophobic parents will do, and also just parents in general when they don't approve of your partner will do.
Yeah, it's awful. It's rude.
It is rude. It's so fucking rude. Like, that's someone standing there.
It's awful. It's rude. But yeah, back to Kendall and Stewie, like, knowing each other for a long time. There is a couple interviews with Ari Mayed while promoting season 4, where there's a cut line from Honeymoon States where Stewie is asking, like, do you remember what he did to you as a kid? Because I was there. Implying that they have known each other for much longer. So Stewie has been around to witness everything that Kendall has gone through. And he's one of the people that knows him the most. I would say maybe Shiv knows Kendall the most. Maybe I'll get to that. I'm not sure. But yeah, so not to say, I'm not going to be out here to say that Stewie is a romantic figure here to save Kendall, because he is also like a toxic figure in his life. But something that one of my friends Indy pointed out is that there's something like very poetic about Stewie, who, with his business degree and his oodles of money, Stewie choosing to become a corporate raider, someone who infiltrates companies and guts them, as opposed to his best friend he grew up with alongside, who we know was being like prepped to take over this gigantic company. And so like I think Stewie, like, he compliments Kendall in that way, in that he has kind of built a career where he is equipped to get Kendall out of this situation by destroying what he has, which eventually he manages it. It takes a couple tries, but you know, that's my guy kept going.
Third time's the charm. It was gifts of Arian Moayed in this show specifically that was kind of like the last grain of rice to tip the scales of me watching Succession. And they didn't even have dialogue on them. These were just gifs of him being beautiful. And I just got the impression, like, straight away, I was like, oh, there is like a gay Arab character like in this show. Like, that was just so deeply shocking to me, because my impression of this show previously was that there weren't really people of color in it, and there weren't, like, it was just about business people, you know? Like, I was just sort of like, I just didn't expect there to be like someone like that, I guess. I had my eye out for this character, you know, this Stewie who I had seen. I was like, where is Stewie? You know, where is this guy who I have seen
all the
gifs
time
of?
watching any episode of Succession?
Yes, obviously, you know, that's you all the time. But me, you know, so I'm watching episode 1, no Stewie. I'm like, okay. So obviously he's not here yet, whoever this guy is. I'm watching episode 2. This is like, Finally we get to episode 3. Obviously my treasured mutuals are all big fans of Stewie. I thought that he was like a character that was in it all the time. So, you know, thanks guys for setting me up for like constant disappointment, because he's not in it all the time. But, you know, when he came in, I was sort of like, wait, have I missed a scene? Because the conversation that he and Kendall have is so... The vibes of it are so intimate that I genuinely thought that I must have like dozed off and had a nap or something and missed something, because I thought, surely this is not the first scene. It sounds like they're like continuing a conversation we'd heard them have, but no. And I think it's just a credit to their chemistry as actors, obviously, but also just the dialogue and the way that it's written, and the subtextual intimacy of that scene, of them going into the bathroom, of everything that's said in that scene, that this is like someone that is very important to Kendall and like a huge part of his life in a way that no one else really is. Like, because prior to that point, the people that we see him be vulnerable, I guess, for lack of a better word, it's not in the way that he is with Stewie. It's not in the way that you see him with Stewie. So it was quite... I was quite surprised, like, honestly, that in the very first scene, like, all of that is conveyed.
Yeah.
With just this very simple, and honestly, like, on the surface of it, just very funny conversation. Like, where like, Stewie's just talking about how hungover he is, and how he can't really hear, like, Kendall pitching right now because he's so hungover, like, more than usual. And he he needs a little bump of something. And, you know, it just a testament to how well these characters are written, that can be conveyed with so little. So that's what I wanted to say, because I love that first scene with them. And obviously I was excited because I was like,
I love all their scenes. Like,
this is the guy.
There isn't a Ken Stewie scene that's bad, you know?
No. There's ones that make me feel bad, but there's no bad scenes.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, actually, Jeremy Strong and Arian Moayed have known each other since they were teenagers, because they did like theatre together or something. So
stop, really?
Yes. According to like some Arian Moayed interviews I've read.
That's so nice. I love things like that.
That is so nice. I love things like that. It's great. But yeah, now they are great together. Mm-hmm. Stewie is definitely more active in the plot in season 1 than any other time, unfortunately. But yeah, throughout season 1, you do see that he is a really good friend to Kendall. And over the course of the series, he never lies to him. No. I mean, he is technically lying to him up until the Sandy thing, but you know, that's not important. When Kendall finds out that he was lying, he spends like 2 seconds being mad, and then he decides to use it to his advantage. So, you know. And yeah, just in general, like, these are very clearly very close characters. And then, you know, there's that betrayal at the end of season 1. Stewie and Kendall are working together to take over the company Waystar Roco.
Yes.
From Logan. And they very nearly succeed.
Boys' night.
But then somebody had to go and commit vehicular manslaughter. which is they didn't succeed on the Succession show, and so the season 1 finale ends like with that tragedy of Kendall losing. Oh, nothing new.
Nothing new.
Nothing
We've seen it
new.
all before.
I mean, end of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Season 2 like immediately begins with the aftermath of them scrambling to cover up the takeover incident and things like that. And obviously, like in season 2, like Stewie becomes Kendall's enemy financially because he betrayed him. And there's a very kind of heartbreaking scene at the end of season 2 episode 1. Throughout the whole episode, they're all kind of talking about Kendall's fuck up and how to clean up Kendall's mess and things, but you only really you don't really remember that what Kendall's done is also a betrayal until you see that scene with Stewie. And it's a very charged scene that makes you very sad. It gives like Social Network vibes, you know?
The Social Network to Ken Stewie pipeline.
The Social Network to Ken Stewie pipeline is real. Like, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure. The way that it's acted out is it's like a lover's betrayal, you know? It's like, we had the whole world in our hands. There's a friend card here if you want to play it, but you know, Kendall can't say anything. And I think, yeah, it's just a beautifully performed scene from Ari Moayed. He's just so great.
Yes, they're all so great.
Even when Stewie is angry at Kendall in this moment, something that a lot of people have pointed out is the way that he keeps his hand in his pockets throughout the scene and he doesn't yell at him.
He never raises his voice.
The only time you actually see Stewie yell is at the end of season 2, when he's yelling at Logan, and it's so hot.
And we cannot blame him for that.
Yeah, when he's yelling at Logan, he's holding a sprig of lavender, and it's amazing. He's so good. But so in this scene, you know, he's got his hands in his pockets. He's not yelling at him.
I really love that Stewie, obviously because he has this knowledge of what Kendall has been through, he never, even when he is so angry and has every right to be absolutely livid at this man, because honestly, I would be like, I don't care. Like, even if I could see that something really bad had happened, I would be like, well, at least tell me what it is. He has every right to be angry, but he never uses that to like compound the abuse that he has. Obviously, as we later learn, as you said, in the later lore that's revealed, like he has witnessed the way Logan abuses these people. So he never, in his interactions with Kendall, even when he very much like has every right to be angry and yell at him and whatever, he never does. And I think that's something like love. I think that's something like friendship. And I think, you know, you even say that, you know, when Kendall's, you know, and I think, you know, there's a sort of funnier version of this as well when Kendall like brings up his kids. Stewie never goes after Kendall's kids either.
There's that scene in Argestes where he's just like Stewie, I swear on my children's lives that and Stewie doesn't take the bait. He's a better person than me. Like I also love that scene at Argestes is such like a post-breakup scene, and it also has the worst dialogue ever in the show, but Kendall's just smiling.
Yeah.
And yeah, just in general throughout the show, there's a lot of like echoed dialogue between Kendall and Stewie. They'll either repeat things that they've said to each other or variations of it, like while they're speaking with other people, which I just think is interesting. There's I don't know how Stewie, Kendall, how did you know that Stewie was on Paxos? What island he was on?
I have so many questions of things that Kendall knows about Stewie.
There's also, I don't know, maybe this is like a bad stereotype, but I feel like Succession ultimately, for like any possible marginalization these people could possibly have, it's going to be bad representation for like the community. For instance, like in season 3, Mass in Time of War, where Kendall's like, sorry guys, so just hang on a sec, I have to say goodnight to my kids. And then what he's actually doing is he's going outside to meet up with Stewie. That's
God, yeah.
That's so fun. Actually, like when I first got the Succession scripts, I was like, Control F Stewie. That's the first thing I did, obviously, because who wouldn't want to Control F Stewie? And there actually was a cutscene where Kendall goes to say bye to his kids. Yeah, without that scene, it just makes it very funny, and it heightens the subtext of them going to meet each other on the DL. And then, of course, season 4, episode 6, which I feel like is peak for the Ken Stewies, in my opinion.
I'd agree with that.
Everyone likes Prague, but yeah, no, I love Honeymoon States directed by Lauren Scafaria. One of my favorite episodes probably of the show. Even though like it's a very small scene with Arian, the way that they come together, that's an Emmy nominated hug, by the way. That's the episode that Arian Wyatt got nominated for Best Guest Actor. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. There is a parallel to be made of Stewie and Ken in that scene, and Molly Gordon and Rachel Sennett in Shiver Baby.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
I love that episode too, and I love it because like when it sort of started, I was like, oh, this is like Shiver Baby, my favorite movie, Shiver Baby. One of my favorite things in media is hugging. I love hugs in media. Like, I think hugs, especially in Succession, like, they say a lot. And these people are fascinating to me because you can tell they were never really shown how to do physical intimacy. And I think something general I've observed with men in my life, in real life, and also men in TV shows, is that when they hug one another, there's like this thing that they do, and this happens in real life, and I'm sure now that when I say it, you'll be like, oh yeah, they do that. Men tend to like slap each other on the back when they hug. It's like they have to have some element of violence in it. Like, oh, we're having we're having a moment of intimacy, and I must undercut it by, back slapping to make sure that, we're not non-manly
so
or whatever.
It's not gay. It's not a caress,
It's not a caress. And this happens, of course, in Succession as well. And
like every hug you see between men in Succession does this. I think there's a gender thing to say.
Yes.
When that hug between Shiv and Mattson, like Shiv does the backslap.
She does the backslap.
She does the masculine backslap.
Yeah, she does. But in this scene with Stewie and Kendall, not only is the scene just in this beautiful warm lighting where the rest of the episode is quite not filmed that way. Like the lighting is just so like beautiful behind them when this is happening. When they hug, it's just a caress. There's no backslapping, guys. And I think, that's a bit gay to me. Like, it's just
also,
really
like,
nice.
Stewie like closes his eyes.
Yeah. There's a softness to it.
It's like they don't really speak. Kendall kind of just leans in, and then it's nice.
He just knows it's safe nice to do that, which is just really nice.
It's very sweet.
It speaks to many things. Yeah, but then he just goes back into Kendall mode.
Yeah, but he's like full on pleading emoji for the rest of it though.
Yeah,
and
for the rest of
works.
It works. And then, I just want to, in the scene after this, because what he asks Stewie to do is to vouch for him that Logan wanted him to be the successor. And, I love vibe
Stewie in this scene.
The vibe that Stewie gives
he said pickles, please.
He's like, I was there. I saw it. Like, I was definitely there. I heard Logan say this, guys. Like,
he said it a couple times.
He's being a good friend.
Yeah. Also, he's Team Ken, baby.
He's Team Ken,
He didn't have to say that,
but he did.
Yes, and of course, the most important. With 20 minutes left of the entire series to go. It's so baffling to me is that they confirm that Stewie's gay in the last 20 minutes of the entire show. And this is done using homophobic language as it can only be done in Succession, obviously. Where Kendall's like making fun of him and is like, you kiss guys on Molly.
And
he's like, you like pancakes and waffles and kiss guys on Molly. He's like trying to tell Stewie like how normal and like blasé he is.
Because those two things are the same, liking pancakes and waffles and kissing guys on Molly. That's definitely two things I would mention in the same sentence.
Sorry.
Yeah. Kissing guys on Molly, yeah. It kind of works.
Yeah.
But yeah, why is that a normal thing to mention in those sentences?
Yeah.
Why, Kendall?
It's weird, that bit of homosocial joshing. Like, everyone's talking about the way that Shiv sees this. She sees this interaction between them. And she decides... she decides then and there, but she also realizes, again, like, she's never gonna make it into this boys club. Like, she's never gonna get to have conversations like this, and so even if she did pick Kendall, it's just gonna be the same thing. And also he's sitting in Logan's chair and he's got it. Oh man, he should not have sat in that chair. That was a trap. But That's
man.
fine. He's what is Kendall if not a dumbass?
That's true.
That's what I love him for.
A cinematic dumbass, though.
He's a cinematic dumbass. He's box office. But yeah, so Stewie, he kisses guys on Molly. That was really nice to get that confirmation in the last 20 minutes. Thank you, Jesse Armstrong, for that bit of homophobia that has made my life complete.
Thank you, Jesse Armstrong, for that bit of homophobia.
But yeah, just Stewie, in summary, Stewie, why do you, as a man, exist only to inform us on the backstory of another man? That's gay. That's really gay.
It's a bit gay, bro. Even the way he interacts with the other sibs is like, it very much gives like, you know, sibling spouse energy. You know, like it's very much that.
Yeah.
You know, like I always bring up like the first scene we see with Roman and Stewie, you know, like and then in Prague, like Roman is fighting.
He's like, can you call Ken? Can you call Ken, please?
Yeah.
And I'll text Ken. Make sure Ken is there. Ken, please call Ken. That was my section on Kendall by way of Stewie, because I do want to discuss more of Kendall further, but you can't understand what's queer about Kendall without looking at Stewie first. Without
Stewie, his only friend, who is incredibly gay,
who kisses guys on Molly. Amazing.
And how does he know that?
How does he know that? How does he know? Also, that bit in the script about him giving toothy head, and, you know, what else do we like? Just a quick shout out to Ari Moayed, who is one of us. I really love reading his Succession takes. I think with all the cast members, actually, especially the ones who are side characters, like the non-Roys, because the show's not about them, so it's interesting to see like the sort of lore that they develop for themselves. Stewie especially is great.
I was gonna say, I loved J. Smith Cameron's lore about Jerry. Like,
yes,
she just has like some incredible, you know, details about Jerry having daughters and not letting them anywhere near any of the Roys and things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I like Dagmara Dominchik, who plays Carolina, was talking about how she might be a lesbian as well. Like, that's, I can see her with other women. Amazing. On the topic of Stewie, I really love reading everything Ari Moayed has to say. Whenever he's asked about these things, it's like he clearly loves the show as well, in general. So, like, the stuff that he talks about, even, like, not in relation to himself, is pretty good. What I've been reading of the scripts, there's not a lot to Stewie on paper.
No.
He reads like totally differently, so I just really love how unique, or I just really love, you know, the flavor that Arian has brought to
the relish.
Yeah, the relish. It's beautiful. I also Ari Moayed, who is Iranian, he's spoken about how, like, with Jesse Armstrong, it was just like a short conversation about them two just deciding, like, okay, when did Stewie come to America? They just had that discussion, and Aaron said, I don't actually want to talk about this on the show. And
he's one of those Swana actors, like a lot like Rami Malek, who made a very huge effort to not allow themselves to be typecast in very racialized and Islamophobic roles. I know there's like an interview I love where he talks about, you know, he just didn't want his parents to see him doing that, and so he trudged around in the pits for a while, as many Swana actors did, because the choices were either, you know, you further contribute to the racialization and discrimination against your own people, or you stick it out and find something else. And he's one of the ones that stuck it out. And obviously I'm not judging anyone who took work where they could get it, but yeah, it's I have immense respect for the actors like that, because it means a lot to me. And I think it is really nice in a way. It is something that obviously you couldn't say is not important to Stewie's character, but it doesn't define him in a bad way or anything. It's just like another fact about him. Also,
shout out to him playing Desiree Akhavan's annoying, overachieving brother in Appropriate Behavior. Like, that's an amazing film.
It's an ally.
I loved when I rewatched Appropriate Behavior, the most recent time I rewatched Appropriate Behavior, which would have been a couple years ago, but after I'd started Succession, and I was like, Stewie. I also got that jump scare rewatching Elementary, so yeah, I don't know.
Oh, really?
He's been working. Stewie doesn't feature as much in season 3, which saddens me deeply. But one thing I do love is in interviews that he did do, he spoke about the Too Much Birthday episode which he was not in, which I think he should have been in. Like, I guess it's in character of Stewie not to attend, but also I just wanted to see him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that thing that Aramai had said about the ending of that episode when he's just like, oh yeah, Stewie wouldn't have given him a fucking watch for his birthday. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah,
but
it's sad.
yeah, Kendall's...
What do you think he would have given him for his birthday, Dale? A scorpion? No.
But Stewie did give Kendall a Trojan horse, which I do want to know what happened to that thing.
Well, he didn't lose
Bravo
that.
Just like left it in her house, like he
didn't
left it in
lose.
Bravo's house.
He didn't lose that gift, like he lost his children's gifts.
Yeah,
or maybe he lost both their gifts.
Well, I mean, this is a different gift. This wasn't for a birthday. This is... The Trojan horse thing was really funny to me back in season 3 because I feel like Stewie is just kind of fucking with Kendall, like just a joke with all the ambiguity of it all. It's like, is Kendall the Trojan horse, or like, is he warning him something? Is he warning him about something, or is he threatening him about something? And I thought of it as Stewie telling Kendall, like, you know, maybe I'm not going to kill you, but someone will. I really love that speaks to how much Stewie knows, like how well Stewie knows Kendall, and that like even the thing that's great about Stewie is like even when he doesn't really know anything, he still knows everything at the same time because he just knows Kendall really well and he knows the patterns. He can see what's going to happen. Like, 1, because he's smart, and 2, because he just knows Kendall really well. And I really love that bit. That shot of Shiv coming out of the elevator with the horse behind her was something that like people were talking about a lot around the time that season 3 came out because it was in all the trailers and previews and everything, and we were like, oh, what? Shiv in front of a Trojan horse? Like, what's she gonna do? What's she gonna do? But then when the season was over, we thought we were safe. But now like with the season 4 finale, it kind of means a bit more now, which I like. And also makes me want to die, but that's fine. So the reason that Mary did ask me this question in the first place is obviously to give me an opportunity to say something cheeky like to the head. So another thing that Stewie could give Kendall would be implied gay sex off screen. So just like personally, like I don't like to actually imagine things. Like different, of course, like if it was on screen, but like
the way you said that, you're just like, I don't like to imagine anything ever.
I don't like to imagine anything ever. Like if you know, if something was on screen to look at, like that would be a different question. But like these are like 40-year-old men, and like I feel like that's none of my business, you know, like as a lesbian, like I don't think about it. If there's that's me personally. But yeah, like if something like that was on screen, it would be a whole different show, and this would be a whole different episode because yeah, we're talking about subtext, not representation, and I would fucking hate to see real representation in this show about white billionaires. I would consider it a diversity loss, which we're going to talk about a bit later when we're talking about Matsson. But yeah, honeymoon states, implied gay sex off screen, and that's the best. And that's the best kind. I was really joking about it. I remember after episode 3, I was just like, oh, I know that Stewie's gonna just, you know.
No, I remember you saying this like when the trailer came out, because the shot of
when
them
the trailer
hugging
came out and we saw the hug, and I'm like, oof, we're gonna get the, like, you know, it's all, everyone's like in grief, we're gonna see some implied gay sex off screen. And then we actually did.
Yeah.
Except we didn't see it, but like you can't tell me that they did.
No, I can't tell you. No one can tell you.
No one can
tell
you. Yeah, you know, can't change my mind. Could you put it in my mind? No. But but it's there.
Because everyone's lining up to try.
Anyways, back to Aaron Mayed's comment about the watch. Like, I think it's true, but it's also like kind of bitchy because we do like Naomi on this podcast.
Yes.
Ken he's got his gay BF, but he's also got his bisexual GF, Naomi.
Like, who's really rolling with the LGBTs here? Because it's Kendall.
If Kendall had just been like a bit more homophobic, he would have been truly Logan, and he could have won. Yeah.
That's true. He couldn't be homophobic enough.
No. But yeah, Naomi.
Especially not... Oh, sorry. Naomi. Yes, I very much love Naomi Pierce. We meet her in Turnhaven. The thing we learn about Naomi Pierce is that she is the ex-girlfriend, ex-something of Tabitha's.
Is she an ex?
Yeah, that's why I went, ex? Question mark?
In a lesbian way, you know?
Yeah. There's somethings of Tabitha's.
The so-and-so.
Yeah, a so-and-so of Tabitha's. And so the first thing we learn about Naomi Pierce before we learn anything else about her specifically is that she's bi. And I specifically love her because the scenes between her and Kendall in Turnhaven are some of my favorite in the whole show. Like, I love the dialogue and I love the irony of them. And we first see them interact when Naomi is sitting opposite Kendall at the dinner table. Iconically, he says, "I see my not-so-spotless reputation precedes me." And he's like, wow, her clocking me as an absolute loser has bewitched me, body and soul. Because, you know, our boy Kendall at this point, he's not doing well in the mental health department. Throughout that episode, we see them, like, talking more and more. And what's interesting about Naomi is that she's essentially, like, a mirror for Kendall. She also struggles with addiction issues. She's also, like, the black sheep of the family. And interestingly enough, she was also in a car accident, which he specifically brings up to Kendall because I was about to say the Murdoch press. I forgot who I was talking about. Which she brings up because the Roy press, Waystyle Royco press tabloids published photos of her accident and her, like, during that period of time, which was obviously very traumatic for her, as if, you know, a car accident isn't traumatic enough. And they sort of have this really hilarious but also quite sad conversation about how, you know, they're getting clean. They're getting clean, everybody. They're getting clean as they, like, snort cocaine in the helicopter, which just iconic of them. And it's pretty quickly established that Naomi is, I don't even want to say a dark mirror because she's just a mirror. Like, that's just the same person. She's just a mirror. And I think it's quite interesting because I do think the point of Turnhaven is, even though the Pierces supposedly own the quote-unquote, like, progressive media, they're the same. Like, they're the same as the Roys.
Rich people are rich people.
Rich people are rich people. They treat the people that work for them the same way. They posture the same way. They all sort of essentially move in the same circles. And so you can look at Naomi mirroring Kendall in that way. But I just think it's very interesting that, you know, we have this character who's meant to be Kendall's mirror, and she's also bisexual. That's literally the first thing that you learn about her. Very interesting, isn't it? That they're mirrors, and it would be really weird if everything was the same about them except one thing, which I don't think it is that different.
Because, you know, Turnhaven, I love that episode too. I really love their scenes together in the helicopter because yeah, they're just good.
They have such good chemistry too, which I really love.
They have great chemistry. Season 2 is Kendall's Hamlet season, and this is kind of where you see a level of honesty and openness in him that you don't really see. But, like, after Turnhaven, the thing is, like, yeah, you have Return where they were gonna hang out in London, but then they don't because Kendall has to go do something that I'll talk about later. And then in episode 8, he, you know, that actress from Willa's play, like that poor girl that he just love bombs and then ditches is, oh, that's evil.
Evil.
And then back to Naomi in the finale. I thought that maybe possibly that could be, you know, Kendall maybe sees too much of himself in Naomi. And so
he can never really like, you know, he can never really love her because he can't love himself.
No.
Like, that's like really corny to say, but it is probably the truth.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Naomi, though, and Naomi's relationship with Tabitha and Tabitha's relationship with everyone else, the Roy siblings are spit sisters. Like, these people, they are so friendless and bitchless that they are all swimming in the same dating pool.
They're just passing each other's girlfriends and boyfriends around.
They really are. Like, if you wanted to, you could draw a very interestingly shaped web with Tabitha at the center to show like the amount of spit swapping between the Roy siblings.
I'm going to attempt to make
partners.
one and upload it to the
Mary
Gay
is
Club.
going to be making the Roy sibling spit sisters incest
The
map.
incest map.
A la Heartbreak High.
Yeah. It is just really strange to me though, like that none of them see a problem with this, you know? Like
I don't think Shiv knows about Tabitha, but it's very funny how you can draw a line, you know, from Roman to Tabitha to Naomi to Kendall to Nate back to Shiv. So somehow, like incredibly, despite the fact that Shiv is straight, and we'll get into that, even Shiv is on this map because she's spit sisters with Kendall. Because Shiv used to date Nate.
And Nate in a stunning plot twist. With the steel chair. At literally the 11th hour.
This really threw us for a loop. So in Tailgate Party, we were hit with a fucking plot twist with Kendall's interaction with Nate, who we know as Shiv's ex-boyfriend and colleague.
Yes, and colleague. That's what they are, colleagues.
And ex-colleague as well. And there's just between Kendall and Nate, like there was a really weird intimacy where he showed up to the party because there's kind of some political reasons for him to be there, and then obviously like he hugs Kendall and offers his condolences, and it's like, whoa, what's going on here? What happened here? This nice intimacy between them that was quite surprising, and there's also just, you know, Kendall being...
Yeah, why did he say that to Nate specifically?
Yeah, Nate was just like, forgot how desperate you were to get laid at a party, and to which Kendall says, I would love to get laid in the saddest way possible, fucking loser.
Yeah.
So since
also,
that...
your lovely Anon that pointed out that there's like a phallic symbol behind them.
Yes, there's
like
also
the weirdest lamp I've ever seen.
Yeah,
just
really
hanging
weird
out in the background.
Phallus-shaped lamp on the wall behind them. When like, come on,
we are a joke to them.
We are a joke to them. Anyways, so this was definitely like a very surprising thing. Looking back, there are like some little things, some little nuggets throughout the series. So like on Shiv and Tom's wedding night, Shiv is trying to explain to Tom, you know, why would Nate be there? And she just talks about him as if he's Ken's friend.
I feel like at the time, like I remember thinking like, oh, she's just making that up. Like,
yeah.
To cover it up.
And she was like, they ran around Shanghai together. That's why,
That's why he's here at my wedding.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why he's here at my wedding, you know? He's not because... Yeah. Then there's also season 3, the Disruption episode, which is one of my favorite episodes. Might be my favorite episode of season 3. I think season 3 is hard to pick a favorite because there's ties. But
season 3
the
is so
Disruption,
good, man.
Season 3 I can't pick a favorite, but season 2 is the best, in my opinion.
I also love how chilled out everyone looks.
Yeah. Everyone's so like been like, what? We haven't been relaxing for like a whole year because we've been stuck inside for
like, yeah, to me they all look so hot in season 3 because they're all just like everyone's just so chilled out. Like everyone's just like,
yeah, amazing.
I love it.
Amazing. But yeah, season 3, the Disruption, that party that Kendall goes to that's memed a lot where he famously, you know, yells to the press, fuck the patriarchy. When he goes inside, he sees Shiv and Nate. He goes to hug Nate first and greet him without really talking to Shiv.
Quinteresting.
More homosocial misogyny. And then he and Shiv proceed to have like the most insane conversation.
That's true. They do.
It's the most insane conversation that, I don't know, I always felt like I was weird for... I always thought that was just, you know, my personal issues that made it stick out for me, but turns out... that conversation that they have, the "it's you now" thing is it's the crux. That's the show. That really is the show. It's you now, and I feel sorry for you. Fuck. But back to Nate, back to Kendall and Nate, and what that means for the gay subtext. So Kendall's his most genuine friendships with people, Stewie and Nate, people who he's known like since he was much younger. And I think that Kendall having these relationships with people he's had long histories with, I think that speaks to kind of how stunted he is and the way that he doesn't grow. Like, he's not able to make any connections with people that he's met as an adult, except for Rava, who is divorcing him, I would say. And Naomi, who is one, his mirror. So I guess there's maybe some narcissism there as well. And two, he simply fumbles the bag with Naomi. That's the thing, like, with the Too Much Birthday episode, like, yeah, Naomi, like, she was wrong about the watch, but she was giving Kendall some very real advice from the heart. Like, in this episode, Roman comes in with the offer to buy...
With the steel chair! No, sorry.
Yeah. No. When has Roman ever actually brandished a steel chair for real? Come on.
Well, I mean,
I feel like every time he's come in with it, he's just like, put it down.
Yeah, even when he manages to like hit something with it, he goes, "Oh shit," and puts it down.
Yeah, he hits himself.
It's like in D&D when you roll when you roll a 1, it's like you may as well have just done damage to yourself for how like badly you rolled. Sorry. Yeah. I just rolled a lot of 1s last game. It was really, really sad.
I'm so sorry. But yeah, Roman comes in with the offer for Kendall to buy out his stake in the company for like couple $1 billion, and Kendall says no. But, you know, Naomi is giving him the advice, take the money and get out, you know, which is the same thing that he told to her in their first episode together, Turnhaven, when they were trying to buy Piers. And it's also something that Stewie told him in Prague as well. Just take the money and get out, Kendall. Everyone that loves Kendall is telling him, take the money and get out, and that he's not Logan, and that's a good thing. But he won't do that willingly, because because Kendall's like crazy dramatic, and he refuses to not be the main character of this show. And
he is doomed by the narrative.
He is doomed by the narrative and by himself. Like, he fucking chose this.
You chose to do that, Kendall.
Everyone in his life is saying don't fucking do this, and then he does it anyway. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter if he loves them or they love him. Like, it doesn't matter. He only wants to go in the one direction anyway, because, you know, the thought of quote unquote tightrope walking on a straight razor, which you could say is another bisexual metaphor.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, if you want, why not? I don't know. I feel like being bisexual is much easier than that, but, you know, I think in Kendall's case, the thought of like just basically doing something difficult and dangerous, like, makes
it's
him
probably
smile,
much
because
easier
Kendall loves
for
that
him
shit.
because he's rich and can deal with fallouts. But you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. Back to the Spit Sisters of it all. And the fact that Ken is bi, meaning that he is Spit Sisters with his own siblings, which is just, such is the burden, I guess? I don't know. But I want to talk about how Shiv sees Kendall's bisexuality, because I do think it's, like, quite different to how she views Roman's sexuality. Obviously, she's still, like, homophobic kind of to both of them, but in very different ways. I think Shiv sees Ken's bisexuality as more threatening than whatever she sees Roman doing or not doing. And since we do have, I don't want to call it a confirmation, but since we do have the added dimension of the Nate of it all, that like adds something like very interesting to like Shiv's relationship with Nate. This is like a tinfoil hat theory. It's not something that I have really any evidence of, except for just the way that we've seen Shiv react to Kendall's relationships with guys. I don't think she probably solely broke it off with Nate because Kendall's bi, but I do think that Shiv feels threatened by men who can have sex with other men, because I think Shiv has established herself so she can survive and so she can kind of try and thrive in this like incredible patriarchal misogynistic world, the playground as it were, because you know, like it is a playground, but it's not one that was ever really built for her to be in. And I think a way that she has formed herself so that she can sort of survive and thrive in here is that she values the qualities in herself that she believes like, you know, are qualities that a man would admire, but also, you know, because she's a woman, she can like, you know, straight men can have sex with her. And so she's kind of like the ultimate like being. She sees herself as like the ultimate being in that way. Like, I'm a woman, you can have sex with me, but also I have all the qualities that a man can have. But if a guy like actually likes dudes, and unlike, you know, Roman actually does something with that, she's kind of obsolete. Like, she can't really offer that person anything. And so, like, you know, which is, like, obviously, like, that's really awful. But like, what's the use of her? What's the use of keeping her around? I want to say I don't view her that way. I just think that that's kind of the way that the world she's in operates.
Yeah.
I think she's actually threatened by Kendall's bisexuality because he can actually use it as an advantage in his relationship, like with Stewie and even with Nate, which is what she sees in that final episode. Everyone has made a lot of jokes that, like, Shiv sees her brother with his boyfriend and is like, I'm homophobic now. I am my father's daughter, actually, she says. But I do think she genuinely sees that camaraderie between them, and she's really threatened by that, and she knows there's nothing that she can offer in that scenario. So she picks Tom. I fully believe the reason she picks Tom is because she does have some level of control over Tom because he's straight and he loves her and she's pregnant with his baby. Like, that's a level of power or influence that she would not have, like, over Kendall or Stewie or any other guy. And you just know, like, I just think that Shiv is probably, like, really angry that her, like, sexual exploits with men are viewed, like, very differently. Because, not to say that men don't experience homophobia, like, obviously they do, but, like, you know, it's not necessarily an advantage for her to have those kinds of relationships, whereas for these men, it is. Like, makes her obsolete, makes her feel threatened.
At least with Tom, there's still the chance that, like, her being a woman can still get her where she needs to be. Like, he's the only option.
It's kind of how she dooms herself, because that's a better option than any of the others in her eyes.
Yeah, like in Decision to Leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, the one thing you have to understand about me, listeners, is that I'm a little bit problematic. I'm a little bit problematic, but I like to think I'm, like, in this instance, it's only for, like, it's only for essentially horny and possibly patriotic reasons. So I guess it's fine. And I say all this to say it's because I kind of ship Shiv and Nate, but in my defense, I didn't really realize this. I initially just thought it was because I thought they were both, like, kind of hot and had great chemistry, and obviously both the actors are Australian, and I have this thing when I see. Also, just on a side note, Australian actors in American productions, like, always have insane chemistry, because I think they just know, like, they're fighting for their lives with the American accent, and it just bonds them in, like, it's like trauma bonding. I don't know. It probably isn't. It probably isn't that hard. But, like, there is, like, a special bond between Australians, like, in American productions, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I love, like, Ashley Zuckerman and Sarah Snook for that. I think it was watching their scenes was really fun and really nice, even though they're horrible. It's very funny because actually,
sometimes it's just nice to see two dirtbags together. Genuinely, like, a dynamic that I'm always gonna love, even if it's not that deep, is gonna be just two dirtbags.
Oh no, I love that. Like, when they're shopping for their, like, wedding shit together, but it's like
they are awful. They are rancid
so
for that.
They're so rancid. I love them. And I also just love how they're, like, laying all over each other. Like, I think this is before they've actually had sex yet, I guess, in this particular context. But, like, they're just laying all over each other and they're like, no, we can't. And it's just, like, delusional. I love them. They're really funny in a horrible way.
Yeah.
And I didn't really think that I felt, I guess, in the same way that you just said. It's not that deep. And I guess I approached it that way until, I was like, it's not that deep. I just enjoy seeing them on screen. But then, in America Decides, my bestie worstie, America Decides, season 4, episode 8, you have Shiv talking to Tom and Nate at the same time for the entire episode. There's, like, great shots where she's holding the phones in her hand, like, both her hands.
2 phones.
2 phones. 2 hands. You know, we always say, like, oh, she's got 2 hands. She literally has 2 hands. Look at that.
The way that they say, like, hi to each other over speaker as well, like, that bit drives me insane. It's just, America Decides is crazy. It's so, like, 90% of it is people on the phone, but it's the most cinematic.
It's the most
cinematic shit ever. Like, the blocking in that episode is incredible.
It is. Shiv's on the phone with Nate because Nate's working in the Democratic Party camp. She keeps calling him for, like, actual updates Because, on their side, on the ATN side, they're just all lying about it. So she's calling him for updates on what's happening in his camp throughout the episode. And it's worth noting that this comes after Tailgate Party, where Kendall was trying to ask Nate to convince Gil to try and stop the Mattson deal with a bunch of red tape. So I feel like that's an important thing, because I think a part of what happens next is also probably because Nate's like, wow, this family's just using me. I'm just not going to bother anymore. Later on in the episode, Shiv tells Kendall that she'll call Nate.
Basically just to see if the Dems will give them what they want and block the deal. It's like at a moment where it looks like Mencken is about to win, where they're not sure like whether to make the call if Mencken's won or not. And so Shiv, in a last minute attempt, says, we'll call Nate again to see what they can do.
She doesn't want Mencken to become president because it would not align with her interests for that to happen. Not really because she has any moral objections, like real moral objections to Mencken. But we'll talk about Mencken a little bit later. And so she goes through the motions of calling Nate. And when she does, in this episode 8 of season 4, he has blocked her number. And watching this episode, like, I literally screamed. I literally yelled. I was like, no! I was like, no! I was quite like, wow.
I felt so sick. And then
that's been so sickening when, like, one of the most horrible people has, like, a moral backbone.
When they draw a line, finally, disgusting.
When they draw a line, it's like, oh, it's okay for you to sit in bed with the woman that you're having an affair with and shop for your little, like, wedding shit, but, like, oh no, draw the line at fascism. It's like, I guess I have to respect that. I don't really want to. And of course, what makes this scene even worse is that Kendall figures out that she doesn't really have Nate in the equation.
Because Kendall calls Nate.
Yes.
And then Kendall, you don't even hear the conversation that he has with Nate. You just see Kendall turning around and looking at Shiv through the glass. And it's so scary.
I think part of the reason why it's scary too is because in that moment, like, Shiv does not have any man on her side. And, like, the thing about Shiv is that she only has power when, like, she has, like, a man on her side, because this is the world, like, that she's operating in. The only guy she really has in her corner at this point in time is Mattson, but as we know, like, she doesn't really even have him in that corner. I think what makes that scary is, like, Kendall knows that. He's like, oh, she's not even going to be an issue for me. Terrible, horrible betrayal. That moment, which you love, Daya, I love, everyone loves it, when he sees her through the glass and he gives her that look like he knows she's got nothing in her hands. She has no cards to play to stop this deal. He also knows that she's been lying to him up to this point. And so Kendall, because he's a man, and this is Succession, and this is the world his father created, he just goes right ahead and completely leaves Shiv out of what he does next. And he goes through with calling Mencken as president, and they call the election.
I love Fox News.
So I think it's extremely ironic in this moment when Tom calls Shiv crazy, like, in this episode. And Kendall, like, yells at him for talking to Shiv like that.
Watch it, Tom.
Yeah, fucking watch it, Tom. And I think
20 minutes
makes
later,
it...
well, if we're just going to be hysterical.
20 minutes later, he does the same thing to her, and he just doesn't give a shit about her. So,
yeah,
because he doesn't give a shit about women.
He definitely knows that he said this thing 20 minutes ago, but he doesn't care on going back at it. For instance, when he's talking with Jess in the funeral episode, and he said, oh, come on, just tell me, even though she doesn't want to, and then afterwards he gets mad at her. Like, he does not care how hypocritical he is, because he's shameless, as we've established. Just with that shamelessness, maybe to tie off this section, Kendall he's pretty enthusiastic with his vocabulary when making deals with men, in a way that it's mostly flirty, leading back to what we said about homophobic language, like with stuff like, I'll go wherever, whenever for Stewie. No, you wouldn't. Basically, like, the thing with Kendall is, like, he's gay and homophobic at the same time, because he's shameless. Except, as we've said before, for when that shame is being enforced by Logan. Logan uses his homophobia to degrade his sons all the time. And in the case of Kendall, like, it's always to do with his relationships with other men. Which I think the peak of this definitely is in season 3 Chianti Shear episode when Kendall and Logan have that big talk and Logan uses Kendall's son as a poison taster, and we know why now.
And we know why now.
We know why now.
No real person involved.
No real person involved. But yeah, this is the first time Logan addresses the crime that Kendall committed at the end of season 1, which was getting that waiter at the Shiv's wedding killed. So at the end of season 1, Logan, he doesn't even have to say what it is. He just lays out the information that he has, and Kendall has to fold. He has to backtrack on the hostile takeover deal. In season 2, Return, even when they go to visit the family of the boy that Kendall killed, Logan, he doesn't bring it up directly. Like, as they're driving away, he speaks of how embarrassed that family are for, like, how their son died like that, which is awful. And then season 3, Chianti Shear, like, it's the first time that Logan calls the crime what it is, a crime. But it's also, like, when he voices the subtext of it out loud, and he asks Kendall, like, hey, are you queer? Did you try to fuck him? And, you know, Logan, he's got the homophobia in his back pocket. He's got it ready to go. So it's, like, one thing, it's quite interesting that he waits, 2 whole seasons to even say this. But I guess, yeah, he's saving it for, like, the worst possible moment that he could use it. But yeah, describing this scene out of context, it's, like, kind of difficult to make it not sound funny.
Sometimes I do find it genuinely shocking, the scenes that people will make memes from, because they're just scenes that I personally would not consider meme material.
Yeah.
And this is one of them. I'm like, this scene started with Logan threatening to poison his own grandchild.
And ends with Logan saying that I've decided the vehicular manslaughter that you committed was gay.
Yeah.
See, like, how do you how do you summarize this scene without sounding like fucking, like, it sounds insane, doesn't it? Because it is so stupid. Because homophobia is so, like, it makes you incredulous, you know? Which begs the question, is there any logic to Logan's homophobia in this case? Like, how can vehicular manslaughter be gay? And I have some answers.
Here on Gay V Club, we have the answers.
And here on Gay V Club, we have the answers to that. Just gonna lay out the facts first. So, it's Shiv's wedding night. That morning, Kendall and Stewie, they've given Logan the bear hug letter to notify of the hostile takeover bid. I really love the start of that episode, and that, like, it feels like the thick of it, the way that they're running around.
It does, actually. Like, it does.
It really does, doesn't it?
Like, spiritually.
Yeah, so on the night, though, they're drunk and they're high because, there's much to celebrate. But Kendall wants more coke. And because this is a money thing, Stewie, for once, decides to be a good friend and have concern for Kendall's use.
No more coke for you.
He's probably lying, and he tells Kendall that he should go to sleep because, they have a big day of businessing to do tomorrow. And then he just leaves. And so Kendall instead tries to score coke elsewhere. He finds the waiter who Logan had yelled at previously, and despite him having just smoked some weed and snorted some ketamine right in front of him, he agrees to drive Kendall back to his home, where he said he had some coke that they could do. They nearly hit a deer, they swerve off the road, the car lands in the water, in a lake, I think. Kendall makes it out of the car by himself, he cleans himself up, and he goes back to the party. And in the morning, Logan tells him that they found the waiter dead in the water, with Kendall's hotel keycard in the car. So, how is this gay? Well, in terms of subtext, Kendall trying to score drugs the night of the wedding, it does have a cruising vibe to it. The subtext of that is heightened by the fact that the waiter went home with Greg the previous night. The dialogue between them is also quite gay. There's a bit where he's like, you should kidnap me. What the fuck? And then the waiter's death. What the fuck, Kendall? And then, of course, the waiter's death, it's given the same kind of weight as the billionaire scandals that we're familiar with. Like, how many stories have we seen in tabloids about rich men killing sex workers and or teenage boys? Or just generally abusing them? Like, the threat of that is used by Logan to blackmail not just the murder of it, but the implication that they might have fucked. And so, the thing about blackmail plots, they have a very important place in the history of queer storytelling. Gay people have been blackmailed under the threat of being outed. It's a risk that still exists for our community to this day, regardless of where you are and regardless of legality and stuff. And the thing is, a lot of the earlier stories about this center on gay men. In literature, you have stories like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In film, you also have movies like Basil Dearden's Victim from 1961 with Dirk Bogarde. There's a couple of Le Carré spy novels like this. There's the Ripley books, and even like today, we still have films like Circumstance by Mariam Kashavars, which we love. And even, you know what, even Love, Simon. You know, so blackmail is very much kind of a staple trope in a lot of queer stories because it is something that's used against us quite a bit.
I recently watched Blue Jean, which is a new film from this year set in the 80s in the UK, and it's about a lesbian teacher who is being blackmailed by one of her students about being a lesbian. So, yeah, it's still in a lot of media now.
Yeah. And so, like, this gay implication, it remained unspoken, but it was made explicit by Logan in season 3. And so the subtext here is that Jesse Armstrong, he's used this trope of blackmail that is like very significant to queer stories historically as a weapon for Logan to use against Kendall. But because we know that the weapon he uses the most is homophobia, it's not that far of a stretch to say that it's the same weapon. And that is how vehicular manslaughter is gay.
Thank you for coming to our TED Talk.
Yeah.
Please remember, next time you vehicular manslaughter someone, that it could be gay.
Yeah. Think about, like, what that means for the community and, like, the bad example that you're setting.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's really bad representation for us.
Exactly.
Bro, imagine if Succession was actually gay, right?
Yeah.
And then you just had people talking about this show like, oh my god, you really have to watch this show. It's about like this family of people and like, you know, the main guy, he's bisexual and really amazing representation. Then you watch it and it's fucking Succession.
I mean, I do believe there are people that genuinely do unironically talk about Succession that way. It just could not be.
And there's like an office romance between Tom and Greg.
Look, there's just a beautiful coming out story.
Sorry.
I do think that, like, it really is crazy. Like, I remember when I rewatched it, because maybe I'd forgotten about it, but I remember, because obviously I remembered, like, yeah, I remember there's a scene where Logan calls Roman, like, homophobic slur, but I can't remember which one it is. And then, like, when it happens, like, it's the same thing. It's like, it just comes out of nowhere. Like, you're just sort of like, this is not, you know, it's like...
It's gay to love your dad.
It's like, I shouldn't laugh. It's like really awful. Like, Roman.
Oh, you, my son, love me?
Gay. God, it's just terrible. Like, look, there's no, like, right answer. Okay, I guess I'll hate you then, and then you can just hate me? I don't know. But also, I think, Dare, what's important to remember is that something that can also make vehicular manslaughter gay, especially in this case, what makes it gay, is that once you have committed vehicular manslaughter, and abandoned some poor random waiter for dead, and you crawl back to your room, have a shower, and then come back to your sister's wedding trying to pretend that nothing's happened, which all has gay subtext to it, as you pointed out. But I think, for me, the thing that makes this quintessentially gay is that when he does come back to the wedding, what song is playing? What song does he choose to dance with his, like, family and little children with? It is Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. Arguably one of the gayest songs
Who Loves Me
ever made. It may as well have been a Queen song, really. But I do think, you know, what for me seals the subtext is the joy that he has on his face, whether it's forced or not. Like, that's the joy of a gay person hearing Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance. Like, truly, it doesn't matter if you've committed...
vile.
It doesn't matter if you've committed vehicular manslaughter. When Whitney Houston comes on in the club, you're gonna have a good time. Okay, sorry, I shouldn't say that, but no, I do think, like, that's a very interesting song choice, you know, to pick that song of Whitney Houston's. And as we know, like, Whitney Houston was also a closeted artist, so yeah, I do think that's a very deliberate choice. On a serious note,
okay,
they could have picked any song to play there, but they didn't.
They could have picked I Got a Feeling or something.
Oh yes, I love that song. That would have made, I mean, I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. Just point out, Fergie is bi, so again, they wouldn't have beat the allegations with that song. You've got to find a jam that does not involve the contributions of an artist who isn't straight, and then it would have been fine. But it's not. They chose.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never beating the allegations.
Allegations.
Okay, so should probably mention, just ideally, of course, Kendall would have gone to prison.
Yes.
For this, like Keontae Shear, it's great, obviously, in that it is sad to see this homophobia against Kendall, but you know, Kendall still did something wrong. It's the zoom in, zoom
Yep.
out.
I think it's like very classic, the psychological trickery that Succession plays on you.
It's the trap.
The trap that you get caught in. And, you know, there's nothing embarrassing about being caught in this trap. Like, this is what the show is written to be like. Is that you genuinely do feel more sorry for Kendall in that moment than you do for the waiter, even though the waiter is the one that's dead. In part because Kendall is the person that you spend the most time with in the story. This show is very good at putting you in the mindset of these characters because of that thing we talked about at the beginning where you do have to like switch that part of your brain off. And in doing that, you kind of adopt this, not the same frame of mind, I would hope, but a similar frame of mind.
It's written to make us more focused on the weight of Kendall's guilt over what's happened versus like what he actually did, which is kill someone. And that is why Return is my favorite episode of season 2, because the zoom out on that it's incredible. That's the episode where Logan, you know, he brings out Kendall's shame by making him come along to visit the waiter's family. And I just love how Kendall can't even be in the room with that family. He just stays out in the kitchen and he does ask for a glass of water, and then after that he washes the glass in the sink.
And he doesn't even drink the water.
He doesn't even drink the water. He just washes the glass in the sink. And this is probably the first dish he's ever washed in his life.
Yeah.
And just, I really love that moment. It reminds me a lot of the pathetic cleanup in the bathroom in the very first episode Celebration when he trashes the bathroom after Logan humiliates him. Like, that is just, it's a good callback to that.
Like, one of the things I love about that sequence is, like, you can hear Logan, you know, in the background. Like, I don't think you see him with the family, but you can hear him.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, like, this is just something I find genuinely quite compelling about Logan, is that he is, like, the only member of his family, really, that has been poor, that has been around, like, normal people, like, in his life. And so, like, he can have these interactions with, you know, the average person.
He's very comfortable.
He's very comfortable, and he can be, like, quite normal, for lack of a better word. Even though, obviously, the only reason, well, not the only reason, but the main reason that Logan is doing this is to torture Kendall, so it's obviously, like, a facade in a way. But also, we have seen, like, Kendall and, like, his children's attempts to interact with normies. Like, they can't do it. So I don't think this is a facade. Like, this is something that Logan, because we don't know a lot about Logan's life, but he wasn't always, like, the titan rich billionaire that he is, like, by the time we know him. So this is, like, one of the scenes where it just reminds you, like, I think a lot of the time, like, I'm obviously not making excuses for him, I would never do that, but I think a lot of the time, because Logan is so cruel, people, like, make him out to be very one-dimensional. But he's not. Like, he's a very complicated character, but he's just extremely cruel. And I think, just this moment for me, like, as a zoom out moment, I think the reason why it is so effective is that Kendall cannot go into that room. And obviously that is partly because of his guilt, but it's also because he has no idea, like, how to...
He's unequipped.
He's so unequipped to actually talk to anyone like this. And I just think... I don't know how to say this without, like, sounding really depressing, but, like, most children and their parents, like, there is, like, a sort of wall between you, like, there's differences because of the way you grew up and the way whatever, but I think it's one of the times where you can really see how Logan is, like, very different to his children, and he really did give them a life that is, like, completely different to what he had, and that probably does make him feel, like, quite alienated from them. Again, not an excuse for anything he does, but, like, it's one of the scenes where you can really see the differences between Logan and his kids, and that's one of the reasons I love it, as well as the zoom out sort of effect that happens there.
Yeah. Okay. And so, Kendall's manslaughter is gay. But you know what's also gay about him, Mary? His numbers.
Also, like, don't forget, he really wanted a gay little website, you know? He really wanted that.
He really wanted a gay little website, but, you know, most of all, Kendall's numbers are gay, which is kind of homophobic for me to say. But that's something that we're going to discuss in the next part of this episode, because this is a long we have so much.
Listeners, we toyed with, like, making an entire...
Yeah, sorry, we are across the Spider-Versing you right now.
Sorry.
We thought this was going to be one episode. No, it's going to be 2. So this is the end of part 1 of Succession.
We toyed with doing an entire series. But we had to hold back and and be real.
Yeah, we nearly started a whole new podcast.
And be really for real about how much time we have.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I mean, ideally, if we had unlimited infinite time, we would do an entire
Hell yeah
podcast series about how Succession is gay, because it's so fun. But we will see you all or hear you all or talk to you all in part 2 of
shortly
of how Succession is gay.
Yes. What are we going to talk about in part 2 other than Kendall's gay little numbers?
Oh, we got the goods. We're going to talk about Mattson. We're going to talk about Mencken, which I'm very excited for, because in our original version of this episode, I didn't talk about Mencken because I was sleepy and didn't think I would be able to make my point. And we're going to talk about Shiv. We're just going to talk about our general thoughts as well, like on the show actually ending and our thoughts on the finale. And that's what's in store for part 2. So please tune back in when part 2 comes out.
Cool. Okay. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.